Alright, stick with me here. Our story kicks off with the teacher warning the class. Less than a week left until the massive Spirit Master Academy entrance exams. He really hoped they would use this time to grind hard and score high enough for a decent school. The guy adjusted his glasses, looking totally serious about it all. But deep down, he honestly knew most of these kids would never survive the assessment. Maybe just a tiny handful from his class would actually pass. The students were totally over the place emotionally. Some looked completely crushed, while others were wildly pumped about their chances. The second, the teacher finally wrapped things up and dismissed them, the entire classroom exploded with massive noise. Everyone was completely freaking out over how crazy fast 3 years flew by. They whined about how their current power made the top 4 academies impossible, and even the advanced one seemed like a joke. So, they just prayed to squeeze into absolutely any regular Spirit Academy. Failing meant getting stuck living a completely boring, ordinary life forever. One guy was laughing out loud, constantly bragging he was easily getting into an advanced academy, which made absolutely everyone else in the room feel incredibly jealous. The whole vibe was a wild mix of super hyped students and totally stressed kids expecting to just fail. But wait, there was this one guy just sitting there quietly the whole time, while everyone around him totally lost their minds. He stayed perfectly quiet and completely disconnected from all the surrounding chaos. His name was Ya Ling, and watching his classmates panic actually made him feel pretty conflicted about the entire situation. Since he was actually a time traveler, he saw things completely differently. He had definitely matured way past making a massive scene over this. Still, thinking about the huge public enrollment assessment coming up in just 1 week made him sigh, because, honestly, he was pretty jealous. Now pay attention here. Ya Ling wasn't from this world. He actually transmigrated here about a week ago through some wild luck, and his soul literally took over by completely absorbing the fading soul already trapped inside. After spending a full day sorting through that vanishing soul's memories, he finally figured out exactly what kind of world he had landed in, and it absolutely was not the safe, peaceful place he knew. This intense world had vicious monsters roaming everywhere across the entire continent, and humans definitely were not sitting at the top of the food chain. Instead, they were stuck surviving inside massive city walls because the monsters were just way too powerful and far too many. But humans had not been completely erased, all thanks to this epic class called Spirit Masters, which was easily the most prestigious job anyone could ever have. Spirit Masters could control powerful spirit pets and use them to battle fiercely against those wild monsters, protecting human cities and even boldly expanding territory beyond the massive walls, making them humanity's ultimate guardians and explaining exactly why this legendary profession ranked above everything else. Becoming a Spirit Master meant gaining insane power and massive benefits compared to regular people. So naturally, every kid's biggest dream was to become a strong one. Ya Ling was absolutely no different after absorbing the original owner's memories. You and I know how it works. Strength determines everything. Ya Ling knew real power was the only way to earn the chance and right to enjoy massive wealth and status. That didn't mean people without spirit powers were completely hopeless. Regular folks could still survive. But life was seriously rough for them, since they were basically permanently trapped living inside these huge cities. Outside those walls, normal people without any spirit pets would just get gobbled up by monsters incredibly fast. So most regular people just stay inside the city their entire lives. These massive cities keep absolutely everyone safe, but they are basically prisons, since nobody can leave. His name was Ya Ling in his past life, and still is now. Same exact name, basically the same face. At least when he looked in the mirror, things didn't feel too incredibly weird. After waking up in this wild new world, Ya Ling figured out super fast that strength meant everything, and he was totally ready to make something huge of himself. The whole deal was simple. When kids in the Federation turned 18, they got one monster egg from high school, signed a contract, and boom, first spirit pet. That was the only shot normal students had. Rich kids could grab monster eggs whenever they wanted. But Ling definitely wasn't one of them. Just another broke student surviving off government money. When the original Ling grabbed his egg, he was totally pumped. But the second he touched it, a dark light flashed, and out popped the ugliest thing. The stiff, undead zombie creature just stood there like a boar. It couldn't even walk properly, just hopping around like a total idiot. The second he realized his new spirit pet was a zombie, all those epic hopes vanished. These monster eggs were completely random. No labels, just pure lottery. But getting a zombie? That was some next level terrible luck. Zombies were basically a huge joke in this world. Sure, they could tank massive hits easily, but they moved completely like molasses. And here is where we leave it. They never evolve. Stuck at level 1 forever. Totally useless. At least normal pets had some cute charm. Zombies were just creepy and way slower than a dog. What is the point? After rolling a zombie pet, the original guy threw in the towel completely. He figured becoming a spirit master was impossible, so why try? You and I are about to watch Ling take over this guy's fading soul. Honestly, if the original dude actually wanted to keep going, this whole wild story might have played out completely differently. That zombie did pack crazy defense, though. Even at absolute bottom tier power, it tanked hits from much stronger monsters. But pure defense was never getting anyone into Spirit Master Academy. Ling tried everything, but nothing worked. He let out a heavy sigh, staring out the window, looking super lonely and totally defeated. Reincarnating into this wild world just to live as a total nobody absolutely sucked. Other reincarnated heroes spawned with epic cheat codes or broken powers, ready to conquer everything. Meanwhile, this guy got stuck with a basic hopping zombie. Pretty embarrassing for the entire reincarnation squad. Right then, somebody walked up behind him and dropped a heavy hand on his shoulder. He told Ling to stop overthinking it. What if the exam failed? Being a normal office worker is not so bad. At least nobody is trying to attack you. Ling already knew who this was without looking. Chen Shi was Ling's deskmate and basically his only genuine friend at the academy. He was the kind of guy who always had his back. Chen Shi came from a totally normal family too, but this dude lucked out big time and actually managed to snag a Windwolf spirit pet. Something that could actually evolve and was not complete garbage. With a solid setup like that, getting into a decent Spirit Master Academy was completely guaranteed. For him though, reaching anything higher would definitely be pushing it. Meanwhile, Ling just stood there like someone hit pause. Chen Shi called his name, voice getting a bit weird when absolutely nothing happened. The thing was, Ling could not hear a thing, because right at that moment, watch closely, a cold, robotic voice suddenly echoed inside his head. Announcing his first spirit pet hit a major milestone, triggering something called the spirit taming system. It started counting up those percentages until it hit full activation. That voice had zero emotion, but to Ling, it honestly sounded like a choir of angels. After basically giving up on his entire life, he finally had proof that he got a system too. His very own personal cheat code for life. That mechanical voice had him totally zoned out until he suddenly snapped right back. His face lit up like he just won the lottery, even though he tried playing it cool. Chen Shi had been shaking him pretty hard. When Ling finally came back to reality, he got startled and quickly buried all of that wild excitement deep down. Turning to Chen Shi completely confused, asking what he was saying since he entirely spaced out. You and I both saw that look of pure disbelief. Realizing Ling had not caught a single word, he started repeating himself, but then gave up with a heavy sigh. He just told Ling to work his butt off these next few days to hopefully squeeze into a low-level academy. Chen Shi let out a heavy breath, knowing full well Ling's spirit pet was a zombie, the incredibly slow kind that could not ever evolve. He figured his best buddy was just reeling from how bad that sucked, which completely explained the sudden spacing out. He gave Ling's shoulder an encouraging pat and told him to keep fighting. Ling just nodded silently, because honestly, his only focus right now was figuring out exactly what this crazy new system could do. He wanted to check it out right away, but knew better than to test it in public, where weird stuff might happen. So rushing back home became priority number one. Then Yeling confidently mentioned how a low-tier academy was not his target, which made total sense, since he finally had a system now, even though he had absolutely zero clue what it actually did yet. Aiming low seemed totally pointless. Chen Shi looked slightly surprised, but did not make a big deal. He probably just assumed Yeling got his lost confidence back, which was cool. Still, he was not exactly taking it seriously. Whether that zombie pet could carry Yeling into a bottom-tier academy was a massive question mark. Right then, a super obnoxious laugh cut through everything. Someone started cackling at what Yeling just said, completely mocking his comment about not targeting a low-level academy. That laugh was extremely loud, and the words were harsh enough that both Yeling and Chen Shi's faces tightened up. They turned and saw this wealthy-looking kid dressed like his family owned half the city, wearing the absolute, most arrogant expression imaginable. Yeling knew exactly who this was. Liu Wu, a guy from serious old money. The Liu family was second tier in Tianhui City, with their family head being a strong 5th-level spirit master, which might not sound completely insane, but in a place like Tianhui City, it actually meant something real. The city itself was not huge, barely medium-sized. The 7th-level city lord is the strongest around. Trust me, you and I will love this. Stick with me here. Tian City has 3 top-tier families and 5 mid-tier ones, plus many smaller ones. Top families need rank 6 fighters. Mid-tiers require a rank 5 fighter. That means the Liu family holds major power here. This perfectly explains why Liu Wu acts like absolute royalty in class. If he avoids messing with top-tier kids, he simply walks around doing whatever he wants all day. With 0 top-tier kids in the specific class, Liu Wu basically runs the entire show without a single person checking his massive ego. So this rich kid from the Liu family gets his first spirit pet directly handed over by his relatives. No waiting around for the academy to supply him with one. That is exactly how things work for loaded kids. Better connections mean stronger pets, starting the race miles ahead of everyone else. Thanks to all that insane privilege, Liu Wu struts around owning the place and treats regular academy students like absolute dirt. Yeling catches plenty of that attitude too, getting endlessly mocked by this arrogant guy. It really does not help that Yeling is actually super good looking and has natural charisma. This just makes Liu Wu furiously jealous, since he expects to be the only star. Now pay attention here. Things get worse when Yeling summons a zombie spirit pet, giving Liu Wu endless new material to brutally trash-talk him with. That garbage zombie will never get you into the Spirit Master Academy, Liu Wu taunts, laughing right in his face. Even the bottom-tier academies would never accept someone like that. Liu Wu sees Yeling as just a complete nobody with 0 potential, permanently stuck with the most useless spirit pet imaginable. In his twisted mind, Yeling is destined to stay totally ordinary forever, meaning Liu Wu can violently push him around however he wants. Standing nearby, his friend, Chen Shi cannot take this disrespect anymore and steps forward to intervene. Yeling grabs his arm before he gets far though. Chen Shi turns around, completely confused about why his friend is suddenly stopping him. Yeling slightly shakes his head, telling Chen Shi to chill. Sure, Chen Shi has a windwolf with decent potential, but he is not from an important family either. Challenging Liu Wu, who has the entire Liu family firmly backing him up, would be completely foolish. The mockery definitely stings, but Yeling has been through enough hardship to know much better than acting on pure impulse. Making Liu Wu angry now could bring his entire family crashing down on them. You and I both know systems are powerful, but Yeling will not become invincible overnight. Upgrading his pet takes serious time. No point fighting over words when revenge can wait. With the system's massive help, Yeling figures he will not even need to wait that long anyway. Once he aces the entrance exam next week and enters a top-tier academy, crushing Liu Wu will not bring any heat from the powerful Liu family at all. Until then, there is no reason picking fights. Chengxi catches on from Yeling's serious look and calms down, nodding. They grab their bags and walk right out of the classroom, completely ignoring Liu Wu's pathetic taunts. Liu Wu's expression sours, watching them leave without acknowledging him. But even he cannot start real trouble at the academy. The academy principal is also the city lord of Tian City, someone even the major family heads respect immensely. Liu Wu is definitely not about to cross that dangerous line. His face darkens while watching Yeling's back disappear, but that is all he does. Trash stays trash. He gets mocked to his face and does not say a single thing. Pathetic. Liu Wu spits to the side. His usual crew of pathetic followers immediately start kissing up to him, standing on either side, flashing their annoying fake smiles. Boss Wu is the absolute best. Yeling is such a massive loser. Exactly. Boss is heading straight for the advanced academies, maybe top-tier ones. These guys have this pathetic routine memorized, knowing exactly what to say to keep Liu Wu's massive ego inflated. Hearing them praise him, Liu Wu puffs up again, strutting around like he completely rules the world. After leaving the academy, Yeling splits off from Chengxi and heads straight back home. He kicks off his shoes, grabs some slippers, and plops right down in the living room. The absolute second he hits the couch, he starts quietly calling out for his new system, keeping his voice low so nobody accidentally hears him talking to thin air. Then, that strange robotic voice pops into his head again. The exact same one from before. That felt like a wild fever dream, even though it sounded entirely robotic. But honestly, he is absolutely eating it up, like it is the greatest thing he has ever heard. The system goes through its entire speech about being a spirit-taming interface that helps him understand his pet and level it up way faster. It drones on forever, but Yeling hangs on to every single word, because this robotic voice basically holds his entire future and potential in its digital hands. He turned the system on at school earlier, but had not actually done anything with it yet. Trust me, you're going to want to see this part. The second the voice stops, a glowing private screen pops up, fully revealing all his stats, abilities, and spiritual power details. Very straightforward. It clearly shows exactly where his power stands. Stick with me here. He tapped the pet section, revealing his zombie stats on the screen. Black-eyed zombie, revived type, super low level. It had just mediocre growth potential and one basic physical defense talent. 0 skills yet, nothing special. But then, he spotted the evolution path, and his eyes went absolutely huge. He rubbed his eyes hard, totally thinking he was seeing things wrong. But nope. It clearly stated his zombie could evolve into a white-eyed zombie next. Turns out his zombie wasn't some useless, hopeless pet after all. People just had 0 clue how to actually evolve the thing. The system revealed that as this zombie evolved, its overall growth potential would keep going up too. In this world, growth potential was literally everything, because it capped exactly how strong pets could get. There were 8 tiers, ranging from absolute trash up to mythical, though nobody had actually ever seen a mythical one yet. Legendary was the highest anyone had on record, and only the ultimate big shots had those. Different potentials meant different level caps. Higher potential meant extra talents and skills, which obviously made you a whole lot stronger. His black-eyed zombie was sitting at mediocre, barely above trash tier. But the evolution path showed it could eventually become a red-eyed zombie king at mythical level. When that fully clicked, he realized legendary pets were already insanely rare, basically sitting right at the top of the food chain. So having a pet that could go even beyond that was absolutely insane. With this epic system backing him up, getting into a top academy suddenly seemed pretty darn doable. So, with enough resources, Yeling could actually become the very first guy on the continent with a mythical level pet. Nobody would believe him if word got out. They'd think the dude lost his mind. The thing is, nobody ever figured out how to push pets to mythical level before. Now, pay close attention here. Evolving a spirit pet takes resources, and the higher the level goes, the rarer and more expensive everything gets. Most of this stuff comes from monsters scattered across the continent. There are really only two ways to get it: hunt the monsters down personally, or buy the materials off the market. For Yeling though, money wasn't exactly flowing. The guy was totally alone, only managing to become a student because the Federation helped him out. Extra cash for resources? Not happening. So, if he wanted his black-eyed zombie to evolve, he'd have to leave the safety of Tanhoi City and hunt monsters out in the wild. Once he settled on that plan, Yeling figured he should at least check what specific materials the evolution needed before heading right out. But when he pulled up the system panel, something super weird caught his eye. The evolution button was shining bright instead of grayed out like it should be. That threw him off completely until he spotted the system notification. Turns out the system had a newbie bonus, making the first evolution completely free. Plus, it threw in 2 free attribute points. Yeling couldn't help grinning at that. Classic new player perks, right? No point overthinking it. Time to evolve. He had to summon the zombie first, though. Closing his eyes and focusing for a quick second, a faint glow appeared right in front of him. When the light faded, a humanoid zombie around his height quickly materialized. Her face was pretty gnarly, straight up horror movie material, but the figure made it super obvious she was female. Those curves weren't exactly subtle, even being completely rigid. Her jet black eyes had this incredibly chilling vibe to them. The female zombie just stood there, totally still and silent, simply waiting for his orders. You're probably wondering the same thing. Was she totally mindless, or just slow? Yeling pulled up the system panel again, and hit evolution without hesitating. Pure white light immediately wrapped around the zombie, completely blocking everything from view. The entire glowing process took maybe a minute before the light disappeared. When Yeling saw his pet again, his eyes widened. The zombie had totally changed, especially her entire appearance. Before, even though his zombie was female, she honestly looked like something straight out of a horror flick. Regular people would have mistaken her for an actual monster. Even Yeling got totally creeped out by his own pet sometimes. Which is exactly why he barely summoned her. Just picture trying to sleep with this terrifying zombie standing next to your bed, staring all night long, since she never needed any sleep. Anyone with a heart condition might literally pass out from the shock of waking up to that. But now, totally different story. After the evolution, the black-eyed zombie had utterly transformed. She should probably be called a white-eyed zombie now. Pure white eyes with just a tiny black dot in the center that sunglasses would easily hide. Completely. That creepy zombie body now looked exactly like a normal person's. The evolved zombie even had delicate features. And while her face was ghostly pale, it honestly gave her this kind of fragile, striking beauty. Take her outside and people might actually mistake her for a regular, pretty human woman if they didn't look too closely. You and I have to agree she gave off a cold vibe, being a literal zombie. Stick with me here. Yeling actually reached over and touched his female zombie's face. Surprisingly smooth, softer than her black-eyed phase, but still completely freezing and stiff. Absolutely zero warmth there. Now, the real question was, could this stunning undead spirit pet actually do anything useful in a fight? Because looking pretty meant nothing if she could not brawl. Yeling needed massive power quickly, and hunting monsters was the absolute fastest way. Defeating monsters meant stacking up experience points, which leveled up his pet. And once she leveled up, Yeling would too. Since spirit masters perfectly sync with their strongest companion, that is exactly why every top spirit master became unstoppable through non-stop battles. Yeling quickly pulled up the system panel to check her brand new stats. She was now white-eyed zombie, undead type, sitting at tier 1, L2, 0 experience. Her growth potential displayed as average with a 0% base growth rate. She possessed 1 talent, low-level physical damage reduction, and there was an option to instantly add upgrade points to it. Plus, she had this wild, upgradable skill officially known as Crimson Strike. This evolution seriously boosted her power and completely shattered her ordinary growth ceiling. That Crimson Strike skill? It was genuinely mind-blowing stuff. When dealing damage, she could heal herself and gain a massive attack boost for 3 minutes. And it only had a 5-minute cooldown. Even with that short cooldown, healing mid-fight and constantly keeping the pressure on made her insanely overpowered. Now watch closely. Combined with her physical damage reduction, Yeling saw the ultimate build forming, a lifesteal tank DPS hybrid. She would have lifesteal, damage reduction, and insane attack power all rolled into one. Then Yeling noticed the available talent points and skill upgrades. He asked the system what allocating those points would actually cost. Always better to ask than remain confused. More talents and skills meant a vastly stronger pet. Simple enough. Most spirit pets gained a new talent or skill upon evolving. Talents were basically permanent passive skills. Higher growth potential unlocked more skills and talents, giving pets with elite potential a massive advantage at the exact same level. While hoarding skills did not automatically guarantee victory, it was still a completely solid way to measure raw power. The system's robotic voice explained that upgrading just required free points. Luckily, Yeling currently had exactly 2 of them completely ready. These free points could boost pet talents, or even upgrade the Spirit Master's personal skills. It was brilliantly straightforward. No extra nonsense to worry about. Yeling totally understood what those points did now. Spirit Masters possessed specific skills they needed to master. Academies taught 3 basics: spiritual chains, spiritual shields, and spiritual vision. Yeling currently had all 3 at level 1. Upgrading them took forever and demanded ridiculous amounts of practice. Higher levels meant incredible power, but also drained way more energy. Right now, Yeling only had 200 spiritual energy points. Besides his constantly active spirit vision, he could only cast the other 2 twice before completely running on empty. After that, he would literally have to wait for energy to recharge. Plus, as skills leveled up, they demanded even more juice. You and I know upgrading his own skills made no sense. Yet, the high energy cost would make them useless. Just not worth it. So, Yeling decided to dump both points into his wide-eyed zombie instead. He eagerly opened the talent and skill trees to check out all his exciting options. He could pick basic magic damage reduction, which slightly weakened magic attacks, or he could choose an absolutely insane super fast regeneration talent. Basically, unless she got taken out instantly, she could heal from any injury incredibly fast, though it would heavily drain her stamina. Available skills: Berserk steadily burned health to massively boost strength and speed, automatically shutting off before things got dangerous. Yeling intensely stared at the 3 choices. 2 talents and 1 skill. He honestly wanted every single one. The massive problem? He only had 2 points to spend. Zombies absolutely need regeneration. That is non-negotiable. He immediately dropped his first point into super speed regeneration. As long as she stayed active, any damaged part would just grow back endlessly, making her pretty much an unbeatable epic force. So many top spirit masters had pets with permanent battle injuries that simply never healed properly, right? Pets could easily get hurt and vanish forever, making this awesome regeneration talent completely essential. For point number 2, Yeling paused before finally choosing Crimson Strike. It was all about synergy. Crimson Strike paired perfectly with Berserk. Berserk drained health while supercharging power and speed, then safely cut itself off at a specific threshold. That is when Crimson Strike kicked in, letting her steal health right back by attacking. Once completely healed, Berserk could instantly fire up again. So what do we think? With this endless cycle, his zombie just became absolutely terrifying. Stick with me here. With both new skills active, her strength and speed absolutely skyrocketed. Her combat power completely dwarfed what it was before. Compared to her basic zombie days, she's insanely strong now. Her movements flowed perfectly now. No more weird, stiff hopping around. She basically just looked like a completely normal girl at this point. Yeling stood there staring at this undead girl. Her clothes were a total mess, but honestly, she had a pretty cute face. He thought calling her zombie all the time felt super weird and kind of rude. She definitely needed a real name. Spirit pets are not just mindless creatures, after all. They actually possess a decent amount of growing intelligence. They are not just regular puppets. While he rants out loud, she just tilts her head and blinks. She gives him this completely confused stare, like a clueless kid wondering what is happening. Just pure, absolute, blank innocence. Yeling really cannot tell if she actually understands a single word he is saying. Still, he figures it is close enough, and completely accepts it. He tosses out names like Crimson Zombie or Crimson Ghost. How about Zuyu? The girl just blinks at him again, keeping that exact same adorably lost expression. He shrugs it off with a grin. Alright, I guess that is totally settled then. You are Zuyu now. And just like that, his first spirit pet gets named in the most hilariously casual way possible. The pet interface updates immediately. It displays her new species as Crimson Ghost, a wide-eyed zombie at Tier 1, Level 2, holding average growth potential. She has talents for physical damage reduction and super regeneration, plus skills like Crimson Fury and Berserk. Compared to before, her Crimson Ghost stats looked genuinely impressive. 4 total talents and skills. Most regular spirit pets at this stage maxed out at 3, or usually just 2. Now pay attention here. Crimson Ghost had 4 right away, so despite that average growth rating, her true combat strength completely obliterated other pets in her same exact category. He needed more monsters to evolve as Crimson Ghost. So the monster hunt begins, Yeling thought. He grinned widely, totally hyped about all that sweet, incoming experience. First things first, Zuyu's shredded clothes had to go. Yeling grabbed his own shirt and had her change into it. That process got a little bit awkward and complicated, though. His Crimson Ghost might be a spirit pet, but she was entirely humanoid. Sure, her skin ran cold and a little stiff, but that did not change the crazy fact that Zuyu had a figure completely identical to a normal human woman. When she changed clothes, Yeling swore he had never seen skin so incredibly pale. After some seriously awkward fumbling, he finally got Zuyu dressed. Wearing men's clothes, she gave off this unexpectedly cool, almost incredibly heroic vibe. That intense stare was ice cold, the exact kind that made people shut up real quick. After pulling his spirit pet Zuyu back into the glowing seal on his forehead, Yeling grabbed his gear and quickly headed out. The Federation still used modern tech, just with a cool twist. Everything ran purely on spiritual energy instead of normal gas or electricity. Cars, smart devices, all of it needed spiritual power to operate. But those vehicles could only cruise safely inside the protective city walls. Outside was brutal monster territory. Driving out there basically meant getting completely wiped out. The Federation had massive airships too. That was honestly the only safe way to travel between different cities. You and I know walking out there is pure madness. Monsters roamed everywhere. Even elite spirit masters could not guarantee surviving on foot. Sure, terrifying flying beasts existed too, but way fewer than the horrors crawling on the ground. Plus, those giant airships were fast as lightning. The Federation stationed powerful spirit masters on board just to keep things completely safe. So unless they hit a massive swarm or some ridiculously strong flying beast, the trip stayed smooth. Back on the ground, Yeling flagged down a passing taxi. He had scraped together some cash from past odd jobs. Even though the Federation actively helped pay for his studies, everything in the city ran on credits. That was the only currency that actually mattered. The true real deal for any transaction. South Gate, Yeling confidently said, as he slid into the passenger seat. The middle-aged driver with glasses glanced over, looking genuinely quite surprised. From Yeling's clothes, he already clearly pegged him as a student. But students randomly heading to the South Gate was not common. Tianhui City had exactly 4 gates: east, south, west, and north, all heavily guarded against wild monster attacks. The city had survived countless waves over the years, proving its seriously impressive military muscle. Just past the South Gate, dangerous monsters started showing up, so regular people smartly stayed the heck away. Anyone could easily leave with an ID. But trust me, you and I know going out there alone basically meant absolute, total doom. The driver figured Yaling had to be a spirit student heading out for some serious real-world experience. Lots of students hunted monsters outside for practice. The car started moving, and the driver clearly knew his stuff, handling the wheels perfectly smooth, but extremely fast. You are from Tiani High School, right? Why are you heading out alone? The driver politely asked, genuinely curious. Students usually grouped up for safety. He had never seen one go totally solo before. Alright, stick with me here. We are about to watch this bored kid turn into an absolute monster hunting legend today. Hunting mysterious beasts. That was his only goal. The driver caught the hint. He was curious, but smart enough to drop it. Pushing a cheerful teenager who clearly wanted to stay silent just makes you look totally foolish. The car fell perfectly quiet except for the humming engine. Soon enough, they smoothly rolled right up to the massive south gate. Yaling paid his credits and hopped out. In front of him loomed a gigantic fortress wall, making anyone feel incredibly tiny just by gazing up at it. Time to leave the city behind. Honestly, these epic protective walls were the only thing keeping everyone totally safe from all those relentless creature attacks over time. Elite guards stood watch along the top. Federal troops kept everything completely secure. When our boy flashed his student ID, the guard gave a quick nod and let him pass. They had seen plenty of cheerful students leaving before, but usually in groups. This confident kid walking out completely solo was highly unusual. Now pay attention. Crossing that gate means we are officially stepping into unpredictable monster territory. Out here in the wild, nobody is coming to the rescue. It takes true strength to survive. Thankfully, nearby creatures were mostly low-level, easily managed targets. The genuinely dangerous beasts typically stayed in areas way out. Those high-tier beasts that used to roam nearby had been totally wiped out ages ago. Without a cool riding mount, our bold guy had to walk the entire way. Still, stepping outside, he instantly summoned his fierce pet, Scarlet Spirit. You can never be too careful exploring the wild. One tiny mistake could ruin everything forever. Bringing strong backup early was a brilliant move. Before venturing deep, he checked a handy map marking where different beasts lurked nearby. He smartly chose a super easy target to stay totally secure. A mysterious zone called Burial Mound. That name totally speaks for itself. A spooky place crawling with skeleton monsters. So why risk this journey? He desperately needed to gather rare materials to help his Scarlet Spirit evolve. Her very first evolution was free, but now he had to do the hard work. Exactly for materials were required. Next, Flawless Bone, Shadow Heart, 10 lesser dark crystals, plus 10 vials of pure dark essence. Magic. Burial Mound held at least 2 of those items, making it the absolute perfect starting point today. After trekking 30 minutes through the dense jungle, he finally arrived. A vibrant green forest had mysteriously transformed into an incredibly silent, gloomy, and desolate wasteland. No bright greenery left at all, just withered branches, decaying leaves, and eerie white stones everywhere. Probably some actual bones mixed in there. Dark energy hung incredibly thick in the cool air. Most normal people would instantly turn around and run. Scarlet Spirit quietly tagged along with her usual blank face, though something intensely sparkled in her eyes right then. The creature barely understood this spooky environment, and honestly, with her simple little mind, she did not care much to figure it out. Yaling confidently charged straight into Burial Mound, completely ready for action. The zone was flooded with weak skeleton warriors, creepy phantom creatures lacking any real solo strength. Honestly, those low-level scrubs looked like a single solid kick would shatter them completely, but they attacked in massive swarms, packing this highly frustrating ability to keep chasing you after taking heavy hits. As long as their creepy little soul fire stayed ignited, they absolutely refused to fall. Those scattered bone piles over white stones did not scare him. The outer edge only held basic grunts. Maybe level 3 at maximum, literally the absolute lowest tier possible. If he just stayed perfectly alert, This adventure would be a total breeze. You and I both heard that, right? A creepy clicking sound echoing from ahead. Quickly scanning the terrain, he spotted a perfect hiding spot uphill and smoothly pulled Scarlet Spirit close beside him to stay hidden. So Yeling stands confidently on this ridge, looking downward, suddenly spotting a bunch of pale skeletons just awkwardly wandering around the lower path. These brittle warriors are literally the weakest FOs in Burial Mound, total bottom feeders. Seeing them, a huge, cheerful grin flashes across his face. Free experience points. He immediately signals his awesome Scarlet Spirit to go handle the messy work. He casually mentions these fragile skeletons are zero threat to her current power. Scarlet Spirit calmly stands beside him, gives an adorable little nod, and fearlessly launches herself off the rocky cliff straight toward the skeleton mob. One evolution already made her significantly smarter. With enough rapid growth, she might even learn how to actually speak to him someday. Right as his companion dives, a mysterious robotic voice suddenly echoes in Yeling's mind, announcing something. Defeat 20 skeleton soldiers, earn a 50% bonus experience boost. He is completely stunned because he thought this system only handled basic skills and evolution upgrades. Trust me, we know. These hidden mission rewards are insane. A massive percentage boost on top of standard experience. Crushing 20 enemies grants incredible extra progress, making this epic leveling journey crazy fast. Stick with me here, while everyone else grinds. This guy's basically riding a rocket. Looking at those skeletons, his eyes practically glow. Crimson Ghost lands her very first strike before her feet even hit the ground. She kicks a skeleton's skull clean off. That neck snaps instantly. The headless body totally freezes while that skull rolls away, showing off a creepy blue flame burning inside. That glow is actually its spiritual fire. It is basically their whole control center. The other skeletons notice this right away and charge at her, swinging their bone knives. Crimson Ghost touches down so smoothly, then completely stomps that skull she just kicked. It totally shatters into bone fragments everywhere, but she does not even flinch. That blue spirit fire hits the open air and just fizzles out. Right then, Yeling gets a system notification confirming Crimson Ghost just eliminated one skeleton soldier. 1 down, 19 to go. Plus, Crimson Ghost's experience bar just jumped from 0 to 0.5%. That might not sound huge, but it is just from one skeleton. These burial mounds are completely loaded. Even without the system mission, taking out 200 skeletons would level Crimson Ghost up. That is way faster than any normal pets. With the mission bonus, she will not even need 200. Her leveling speed is going to totally blow past everyone else. Thinking about it, Yeling almost bursts out laughing, but he holds it in to avoid attracting any more skeletons. Now pay attention. The other skeleton soldiers totally swarm Crimson Ghost with their bone knives, fully surrounding her. These skeletons barely have any brains at all. They run on pure fighting instinct. Yeling shouts from his spot, telling Crimson Ghost to wipe them all out and leave absolutely nobody standing. She instantly shifts right into attack mode. Her hands are pale like jade, packing these super sharp dark nails. It is classic zombie style, and those things are definitely not for show. They are hard as weapons and loaded with toxic zombie venom. If she scratches someone and breaks their skin, that intense poison gets inside and spreads through the entire body, making victims fall in pure agony. They end up totally wrecked. Dark venom starts pouring out of every opening, turning their skin completely purple. These skeleton soldiers were pretty weak, honestly. Maybe tier 1 through 3 at best. They never stood a single chance against Crimson Ghost. Only the higher level ones could even leave a scratch. Crimson Ghost moved incredibly fast. Nothing like those slow zombies you always hear about. She was an absolute blur, zipping between the skeletons. Before anyone could even blink, one totally lost its head, and the remaining bones just crumpled straight to the ground. Within seconds, all the skeleton soldiers were officially down. We both felt that impact. Every single one lost its skull. Crimson Ghost returned to Yeling carrying a bunch of pale skulls from those soldiers she defeated. Yeling saw they were still completely intact and told her to properly finish the job. Crimson Ghost just nodded, crushed each skull with her sharp claws, and those weird blue spiritual flames started totally fading into nothing. The system notifications instantly started popping up, happily confirming Crimson Ghost just took out skeleton soldiers 2 and 3 out of 20. After taking down 6 skeleton soldiers, Yeling had officially knocked out almost a third of his big mission goal. Things went well, so he figured he'd keep the momentum going. But our guy was not stupid. He stayed on the outer edges instead of pushing deeper into really dangerous territory. His plan was simple: clear out skeletons hanging around the perimeter, finish the whole mission, and level up Crimson Ghost without risking his neck. There was no point playing hero when Crimson Ghost was not quite strong enough yet. So Yeling had to play it super smart and slow. This whole entire thing basically turned into a grinding session. Walking around that outer area, he ran into small skeleton groups here and there, sometimes even fighting 2 groups at once. But Crimson Ghost absolutely handled them without breaking a sweat every single time. Less than half an hour later, Yeling wrapped up the task. The system notification popped up. First epic battle complete. 20 skeleton soldiers eliminated, and Crimson Ghost got a fat 50% experience boost as reward. Defeating 20 skeletons gave 10% experience, and finishing the awesome quest added another 50. The progress bar jumped straight to 60%. At this wild rate, Crimson Ghost only needed to defeat 80 more skeletons to hit the next level. Her upgrade speed was absolutely insane, just like watching a rocket blast off. But something else really caught Yeling's attention. Right here, Crimson Ghost did not seem to have any physical limits. Even after all those crazy fights, she showed absolutely zero signs of exhaustion or fatigue. Yeling started thinking this might just be because she was a zombie. He remembered learning in his past life that zombies were weird, immortal beings that could never perish or even reincarnate. They had totally unlimited stamina and could just keep fighting forever without getting tired. Wild, right? Yeling knew his super regeneration talent used up physical energy to heal injuries. Stick with me, we are about to find out if infinite stamina is absolutely broken. The system stayed quiet, but honestly, that was the only logical answer right now. If Crimson Ghost's insane healing didn't drain a single drop of energy, seriously overpowered, Yeling spent the next couple of hours cheerfully hunting down skeletons nearby. Finally, after clearing out another monster wave, Crimson Ghost hit the experience threshold and instantly reached Tier 1, Level 3. The system even tossed in a bonus point. Getting that from leveling up was super lucky. These points were massive. Yeling could use them to boost his spirit pet's talents, or even upgrade his own spiritual powers. He totally didn't expect one this easily. Honestly, spiritual skills weren't extremely useful for him yet. His spiritual energy was way too low. Even with him and Crimson Ghost hitting Tier 103, his power just sat at 300 points. That just wasn't nearly enough to cover the cost of most spirit skills. To fight stronger FOs and help Crimson Ghost level faster, Yeling excitedly dumped that free point straight into his pet's talent tree. The only open choice was low-level magic defense. He clearly needed to level up more before any other epic talents finally unlocked. Without overthinking a single thing, he instantly gave Crimson Ghost that crucial resistance against incoming magic attacks. Now watch closely. With Crimson Ghost powered up, Yeling boldly marched right into the deeper zones. Those skeletons were entirely mindless. They just blindly swung bone knives without any real strategy. But deeper inside, those higher-tier monsters actually had some serious brains. Once these beasts got smart enough, they would set clever traps and command weaker ones to attack. Sure, regular skeletons gave decent experience, but if Crimson Ghost hunted higher-level threats, those experience gains would be absolutely massive. And right now, experience was exactly what Yeling needed. Faster Crimson Ghost levels meant faster personal growth. That meant he'd be totally ready for that huge college admissions meeting in just a few days. Yeling called out and ventured deeper. As a loyal pet, Crimson Ghost cheerfully followed his every single command. Meanwhile, deep in the ruins, some mysterious rider was charging on a dragon, completely destroying skeletons left and right. Their pet was an Earth Azure dragon, basically a subdragon species, but still an absolute powerhouse of a beast. It looked like a walking boulder, all rocky and brown, boasting absolutely insane defensive power. It had massive horns, thick legs, and a tail that could easily crush cars. The rider shouted, demanding the beast stop playing and finish it. Instantly, the dragon's vibe shifted from playful to absolutely ferocious. One epic tail swing, and the skeleton's legs shattered instantly. The creature slammed down hard, still stubbornly gripping its bone, sword, and shield. The dragon roared, totally hyped up, then easily crushed the skeleton's skull into dust with one heavy pour. It all ended so fast. Clearly, it was obvious this dragon was absolutely not some basic pet. I know what you are thinking. Free loot. A blue flame floated up, and the rider quickly bottled it. That soulfire was the skeleton's core. It would simply vanish if no one grabbed it. Hunters collected these to sell. The tricky catch? Regular bottles failed completely. You needed a special Federation soul bottle, and those things cost precious federal points. Yelling defeated skeletons earlier too, but our guy was completely flat broke. Even pulling all his cash, he couldn't afford one bottle, so he just ignored it. Meanwhile, the rider walked over and cheerfully praised his dragon. Instantly, that massive beast acted like a giant puppy, looking so incredibly happy and proud. Then the rider's face appeared, except, it was not a guy at all. She were all black with knee-high boots, rocking a fierce ponytail, and a stunning figure. Her face seemed coldly distant, yet naturally gorgeous, with glowing, flawless skin. Plus, that beauty mark under her left eye gave off a wonderfully captivating charm. That wasn't her real personality, though. She simply could not help being naturally beautiful. That was just life. This was Huozhen, eldest daughter of the Huo family, head, one of three major families running Tianhui City. Her name sounded so delicate and perfectly refined, just like some sheltered, wealthy princess. But reality was different. Huozhen was first in line to inherit the Huo family, a massive deal, especially as a woman. The pressure on her was insane. Many younger relatives constantly plotted to steal her heir spot. Honestly, almost all her family friends expected her to completely fail. Here is our takeaway: doubting her just because she'd eventually marry was foolish. Let's dive in together. If she became the family head, wouldn't that basically mean handing over the entire Huo family as a wedding gift? The rest of the family absolutely hated that idea. The Huo family was an absolute powerhouse in Tianhui City. That basically meant they could get absolutely anything they wanted without lifting a finger. Nobody wanted to see all that massive influence just tossed away as a simple dowry, even though most relatives could not stand Hunter as the heir. Her father completely had her back, 100%. As the current family head, he fought hard to secure his daughter's position, completely ignoring how much everyone else complained about it behind his back. So Huosi essentially saw herself as the next family head, and she was grinding relentlessly to grow even stronger because of that massive goal. She had a gorgeous face, but totally refused to use it. Everything she ever achieved came purely from her own intense hard work. At her Tianhui City High School, she was crushing it with top grades and some seriously crazy power. That day, she headed into the wilderness to train like usual, bringing her spirit pet, an epic azure dragon hatched right from an egg her dad's dragon had laid. Even as a tiny newborn, this awesome creature possessed insane potential regular people could only imagine. But here is the catch. Even with that epic head start, getting the Earth Azure Dragon to evolve was a nightmare. Her dad, Huo Qinggan, was a 6th level 9th grade spirit master, yet his dragon still had not evolved to the next stage at all. Money was not the issue, since the massive Huo family was a top 3 clan in Tianhui City. Watch closely with me here. Nobody in the entire Federation knew how to evolve these dragons, leaving them completely stuck. Luckily, the Earth Azure Dragon could still max out at 7th rank, level 10. That was pretty solid. And since Huo Qingshan was only at 6th rank, 9th level, he still had plenty of time to adapt. Meanwhile, Huo Shan'er already hit 1st rank, 7th level in under a year. That crazy speed made her a top local talent. Even if it was not super special, across the entire federation. Compare that to Yeling, who took half a year just to slowly scrape 2nd level with his zombie. Though that was partly due to some stuff she pulled. Most normal students were sitting around 3rd or 4th level anyway, so, yeah, she was legit talented. While Yeling walked deeper into the burial mound, he heard fighting ahead. He suddenly spotted the Earth Dragon, absolutely wrecking a whole bunch of skeleton soldiers. These were not the weak ones. Skeleton warriors usually start around 1st tier, level 5. Crimson Ghost at tier 1, out 3 could probably handle them just using his raw strength, defense, and skills. But it would not be nearly as incredibly smooth as how that Earth Dragon was doing it at level 7. Crimson Ghost definitely was not ready for that crazy matchup. Huo Sienna was totally vibing with her dragon when her eyes suddenly narrowed. She clearly picked up on something. Her cold voice demanded whoever was hiding to just step out. Yang knew he was completely busted, but honestly, he was not even trying that hard to hide anyway. He stepped out, feeling quite confident. Even though Crimson Ghost could not beat the Earth Dragon in a fight, simply running away would not be too terribly hard. And if things got way too sketchy, he could always use the other local demons as cover. I know exactly what you are thinking. When he actually saw Hazener's face, he totally froze. She was the literal absolute school beauty, and not just stunningly pretty, but scary, smart, and powerful. Everyone figured she was a total lock for the elite spirit academies. Most students with spirit pets were seniors pushing 18 or 19, training for roughly half a year. The ones doing incredibly well almost always came straight from the massive, powerful big families. Those families had endless resources. Whenever their kids went out to train, powerful experts always tagged along to keep them perfectly safe. Yeling confidently walked out and claimed he was simply just passing through. Quar immediately recognized him right away. The guy was famously known at school simply because his pet was a zombie. Nobody else had one like it. Not just at school, but practically anywhere in the whole Federation. Sure, the zombie was decent early on, but everyone knew it was total trash long term. It hit hard and tanked heavy damage, but it moved like a snail and could not evolve, making it practically useless in battles. That is exactly how Yeling got famous, though for terrible reasons. Even Hu Shen'er, who usually kept to herself and strictly focused on training, had heard about him. Looking totally confused, she asked why he would come to a dangerous graveyard alone. In her mind, showing up here with a weak zombie was practically a one-way ticket. What she completely missed was that Yeling's Crimson Ghost was not that same useless pet anymore. It was merely tier 1, level 3, but combining its wild talents and epic skills, it could actually almost keep up with her Earth Azure Dragon. You and I know he has a system. Yeling felt super confident he could catch up to her level in a few days with hard work. He coldly told her it was his choice where he went, and she absolutely could not boss him around. Let's dive right into this. She was honestly just worried about him, but her super bossy tone completely rubbed him the wrong way. Her Earth Dragon absolutely hated his attitude and roared right in his face. The blast was so intense it kicked up heavy dust and rubble everywhere. These dragons were massive and pretty slow, but their solid defense meant they basically had zero weak spots besides their speed. That sudden, massive roar caught Yeling completely off guard. He stood there totally confused about what he did wrong. She just giggled, patting her dragon to calm it down. It shot Yeling one last glare before totally losing interest. Yeling just stood there, completely clueless about what he did. She tried again, warning him this zone was too dangerous. They barely knew each other, but going to the same school gave them at least a little bit of connection. She was genuinely sweet and really didn't want to see him get hurt. In her mind, failing to enter the Spirit Academy and just living as an ordinary guy really wasn't that bad. He could easily work a normal city job or just join the military to guard the Federation as an Everyday, soldier. Yeling told her not to worry, waved goodbye, and headed a completely different way. The skeleton soldiers in this zone were already totally wiped out. Now watch closely. He only had a few days to get way stronger, so he desperately needed a new hunting spot before time completely ran out. Seeing him just walk off and ignore Hazener's good advice, she got annoyed and gritted her teeth. Standing there with her arms crossed, she watched him leave, annoyed and muttering about how she only wanted to help while he just completely blew her off. This whole situation seriously bugged her because she had nothing but good intentions, and he just didn't care at all. But suddenly, she got curious. Why did this guy think he could handle this dangerous mound solo? Especially since Yeling was literally the weakest in their entire class. After recalling her epic Earth Azure Dragon right back into its seal, she secretly tailed him from a distance to see what would happen. Yeling totally noticed her tailing him, completely unsure what her actual deal was. But he had zero time to worry about that. He needed to hunt down monsters fast to level up both himself and his spirit pet. Eventually, he stopped in his tracks, spotting 3 massive skeleton soldiers up ahead with about 10 regular ones scattered everywhere. This was the very first real threat he faced since going deeper into this creepy mound. The regular skeletons were super easy for his Crimson Ghost to handle, but those 3 massive ones made things incredibly tricky. He knew his pet had insane stamina and could regenerate super fast without limits. But getting totally swarmed by that many enemies meant there just wouldn't be enough time to heal. You saw this coming, right? His frenzy and battle rage skills were totally clutch here. Looking around, the skeletons were hanging out in this low spot between 2 huge bone mounds. That totally made sense since this entire area was literally covered in white bones. To wrap this battle up super quick, he figured he absolutely needed to take out one giant skeleton first. They weren't much different from the normal ones, just way bigger and hitting a lot harder. So, if he could just chop off its head instantly, the monster would go down easy. Those giant bone mounds looked like the absolute perfect spot to launch his surprise attack from. Hannah saw him watching the skeletons. She knew her Earth Dragon could wreck that entire group instantly, since it was already at the 7th level, 1st tier. But for Yeling, this looked like an absolute nightmare scenario. One giant skeleton soldier could easily crush 4 or 5 regular ones without even trying. And his zombie pet's defense definitely wouldn't hold up against all those heavy attacks. She totally couldn't figure out his crazy plan. Instead of retreating, he just charged up the bone mound like he was ready to throw down. That made her incredibly curious about what gave him such insane confidence. Once he finally reached the top, Yeling summoned his Crimson Ghost through the spirit pet seal. A glowing red magic circle instantly appeared, and a mysterious figure started fully materializing beside him. When Ho Chenner saw this from her hiding spot, her eyes went completely wide. She literally could not believe what she was looking at right now. This was supposed to be Yeling's zombie pet, but it looked absolutely nothing like a monster, and was basically identical to a gorgeous human. Turns out his Crimson Ghost had actually evolved into a white-eyed zombie. Now, it looked exactly like a regular human girl, especially since Yeling had dressed her up in his own clothes. If she hadn't seen it summoned directly from the spirit pet seal herself, she honestly never would have believed this girl was actually a pet. This whole crazy situation was completely blowing her mind. She had never seen anything like this before. Even though Hooser was incredibly confident about being one of the hottest girls at Tianhui City High School, seeing exactly how gorgeous this zombie looked was throwing her off completely. Huo Sienna was a truly gorgeous girl, but seeing Yeling's newly evolved Crimson Ghost spirit pet, she actually started feeling just a little bit insecure. Wild, right? The zombie had a better figure than her, which was super embarrassing. Come along with me. She watched Yeling stroll off, absolutely bewildered by his zombie pet. Seriously, these guys aren't supposed to evolve, like, ever. For ages, legendary spirit masters tried to force this evolution, even taking on zombie companions just to test wild theories. But everyone failed miserably. So if our boy Yeling somehow cracked the code, that's undeniably mind-blowing. Sienna totally didn't see this coming. Now, she was super pumped to see what this quirky creature could actually pull off in battle. Meanwhile, Yeling jumped into action. The skeleton warriors scattered, and he just flashed a totally casual wave. Master and pet share a secret mental link, so he didn't even need to shout a single command. Crimson Phantom's quirky white eyes snapped right onto the closest skeleton soldier. Without a single pause, she happily launched herself off the bone pile. The startled skeleton glanced up, only to find Crimson Phantom falling right toward him. With zero time to dodge, he quickly raised his bone shield for defense. But Crimson Phantom possessed some wildly brilliant, supernatural battle instincts. She spun beautifully mid-air, tapped the shield, and used that sweet momentum to backflip right behind the skeleton. Then, her claws flashed out lightning fast, cleanly snapping right through the skeleton's neckbone. The skull just popped right off. That loud clatter definitely caught the other skeletons' attention, making them roar and furiously charge over with weapons. Although Crimson Phantom belonged to the Monster Club too, these skeletons saw a pesky intruder and totally refused to play nice with her. Most basic monsters totally lack magic abilities anyway. They rely purely on weapons or brute strength, which is exactly why Yeling felt super confident sending her in. Right after Crimson Phantom bested that first skeleton, a cheerful system notification magically chimed. The cool quest required defeating 20 skeleton warriors. Winning meant scoring 50% extra pet experience, plus a fabulously unique special outfit for his companion. Yeling felt confused at first. Just clothes? That sounded kinda silly, but then he realized this magical system definitely wouldn't just hand out useless junk. So maybe this mysterious outfit would actually boost Crimson Phantom. Before he could even wonder, a flashy new mission popped up called 100 Bone Slash. Defeating 100 skeletons guaranteed an instant level up. 2 exciting quests at once, and the shiny rewards were fantastic. This challenge could instantly skyrocket Crimson Phantom's tier, though it required serious hustle. Defeating 100 elite skeleton soldiers is definitely harder than basic grunts. Now watch closely. These elite soldiers lurked much deeper inside the dungeon. Unlike the beginner area, heavily packed with basic, fragile skeletons, their current spot didn't have a massive crowd of soldiers. But hunting down 100 of them really wasn't going to be a problem. He just needed extra effort. Once Crimson Phantom leveled up, all their future battles would be a breeze. When Crimson Phantom defeated that skeleton earlier, her bright experience bar happily jumped up 1%. Elite soldiers gave way more experience than regular ones. This thrilling pressure actually got Yeling super pumped for more awesome quests. The massive skeleton horde had already pushed aggressively close to our Crimson Phantom. 2 tough soldiers led the chaotic charge, while the rest eagerly trailed behind. Meanwhile, Crimson Phantom's adorable expression stayed completely, calmly flat. Crimson Phantom, Berserk Aura, facing that many enemies. Yeling certainly wasn't messing around today. He immediately ordered her to activate the Berserk skill. Crimson Phantom didn't hesitate for even a second, triggering her boiling Berserk Aura instantly. Her pale skin turned glowing red, looking like the energy inside was literally boiling over, which it was. The mysterious energy inside Crimson Phantom's body was rapidly heating up, going totally wild. With Berserk Aura active, she took minor self-damage, but her incredible speed and dramatic power kept fiercely ramping up. Can you believe this? A crimson aura started radiating everywhere. Sienna, who had been watching this whole time, actually flinched in shock. Crimson Phantom's incredibly flashy takedown of that first clumsy skeleton had already blown her mind. But now, with this dramatic shift in presence, the creature felt dangerously epic. She could literally feel an intense, mysterious pressure radiating off it. That intense feeling shouldn't affect a cheerful prodigy like her. Her mighty earth dragon certainly wasn't weaker than Crimson Phantom. The overwhelming pressure actually came from Yeling himself. Everyone totally assumed zombies were bottom-tier pets with zero potential. Yet Yeling somehow shattered that golden rule. Honestly, whether his companion was mutated or not didn't even matter. it was still a zombie. As a celebrated, brilliant prodigy, Sienna suddenly felt the heavy competitive pressure rapidly mounting. Yelling's spectacular zombie might not overpower her Earth Dragon right now, but its daily growth rate was already undeniably insane. Given enough time, it could genuinely surpass her dragon. Sienna fiercely decided she wouldn't let herself fall behind. Once this crazy dungeon adventure concluded, she eagerly planned to dedicate every spare moment training hard, finding clever ways to push her dragon to the next level. So what do you and I think? That's the perfect way to secure entry into a top academy. Alright, stick with me. We are looking at an academy where available spots are insanely rare. Naturally, they ranked everyone from highest to lowest scores. Hassaner knew she would pass, but barely making it wasn't her style at all. If she was taking this massive exam, she was going all out for that absolute top score. That was where the real advantages were. Back in battle, the Crimson Ghost's skin turned deep red, its eyes glowing with a faint crimson tint. With the crimson aura swirling, the ghost charged forward first. Just standing around waiting to get surrounded basically meant game over. The smartest play here was to break their formation by taking out a skeleton soldier first. After that, dealing with the rest would be a total breeze. Yelling stood high on the bone mound, totally ready to call out commands whenever his Crimson Ghost needed backup, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Spirit Masters weren't just about controlling their spirit pets. They could actually use spirit skills for blocking or attacking. Dropping an unexpected surprise technique mid-battle could completely flip a losing fight, which is especially effective against rival teams of spirit pets. The catch? These skills burn through spiritual energy like absolute crazy. Since spiritual energy restored super slowly on its own, running empty during a clash was bad news. Sure, legendary natural treasures could massively boost your energy limits, but that stuff was incredibly rare and just ridiculously expensive to buy. Now pay attention here. These rare items always end up with the mega rich. Regular folks stood zero chance. Meanwhile, Yeling quickly briefed Sui Yu on the entire situation through their mental link. Watching the skeleton soldier charging straight at them, Yeling didn't hesitate for a single second, unleashing an epic ability spiritual energy chains. Suddenly, bizarre ripples appeared along both sides of the path, spreading out like water waves. Glowing chains made entirely of pure spiritual power burst from thin air, rocketing forward at absolute lightning speed. In under 1 second, they wrapped around the skeleton limbs and head, completely binding it. The skeleton soldier never saw it coming. These creatures had basic intelligence, definitely better than average skeletons, but nowhere near human levels. Its massive charging momentum sent it crashing face first into the dirt. Su had already gotten the signal from Yang, meaning there was absolutely no way he would waste this perfect opening. Thanks to its berserk surge, the Crimson Ghost's power and speed had completely skyrocketed. With one explosive leap, massive cracks immediately spiderwebbed across the solid earth beneath him. This absolutely insane burst of speed caught even Yang totally off guard. Not to mention Hosiner watching from afar. Su turned into a streak of crimson lightning, instantly appearing behind the trapped skeleton. Without missing a beat, he delivered a totally devastating kick straight to its skull. The impact was absolutely brutal. Dust and sand exploded everywhere, forming a thick cloud that completely blocked the vision of the other skeletons following close behind. With their target totally hidden, the remaining skeletons had absolutely no choice but to halt their advance. The shockwave was so intensely powerful, Yeling felt the bone mound beneath his feet tremble. Yang couldn't help but smile with genuine satisfaction. He figured Berserker mode would give the Crimson Ghost a decent power boost, but nothing quite like this. Based on what he just witnessed, Suyu's destructive power easily matched Honor's Earth Azure Dragon. Talk about an epic surprise. Meanwhile, Honor stood there with her jaw dropped, eyes wide in absolute, pure disbelief. We both saw that, right? This was in a completely different league from any normal zombie. Sure, standard zombies were famously tough, but they always had very clear limitations. Most importantly, they were incredibly slow. Yet here was Yeling's spirit pet, moving like a bolt of absolute lightning, so ridiculously fast, it practically disappeared from view if someone even blinked. Plus, its raw destructive power totally matched her mighty Earth Dragon's output. This whole thing felt entirely impossible. Sienna had spent countless hours grinding outside those city walls, leveling her Earth Azure Dragon just enter a top-tier Spirit Master Academy someday. She had been incredibly proud of her progress, until now. Watching Yeling's Crimson Nether in action sent her spiraling into serious self-doubt. Not long ago, Yang was just a first-level, second-tier Spirit Master with the matching entry-level zombie. Back at that stage, zombies were considered basically useless. Their clunky hopping made them slower than basic skeletons, but everything had completely changed. This beast had insane speed and Earth Dragon level strength. It was an absolute monster, and Yeling was still only a first-tier, third-level Spirit Master at best. Yet, his Tier 3 zombie pet casually crushed a Tier 5 skeleton soldier. The power gap was terrifying. So what do we take from this? The Crimson Ghost easily slipped through the smoke like a shadow. Let's dive right in. Perched up on that bone mound, Yang had the perfect view of everything below, tracking every skeleton spot, including that final soldier. Yang mentally pointed Ziyu at that ultimate target. The Crimson Ghost launched forward at absolute breakneck speed, staying super low to dodge any unwanted attention. Not that it was super tricky. Skeletons aren't exactly famous for their sharp senses. Most beast-type monsters could sniff out their rivals super easily with sharp noses. Crimson Ghost's hands glowed a vibrant red, his dark claws shifting into bright ruby talons that looked like they just emerged from a pool of pure energy. The fierce creature let out a wild hiss while charging at the skeleton soldier. Reaching exactly 2 meters, Crimson Ghost dropped super low, his legs erupting with incredible power. He exploded right through that heavy dust cloud. Ruby red claws aimed straight for the skeleton's skull. Watching this unfold, Hosener finally pushed past her initial shock, but actually felt a little bit let down. The skull is the toughest part of these skeletons, so aiming for it felt like a total rookie mistake. She honestly thought Crimson Ghost should have simply targeted the neck bone instead. Exactly like with the very first skeleton. One perfect strike there could snap it, knocking the foe completely out of the battle, even without fully finishing it. After that, the rest would just be super easy pickings. Watch closely, because what happens next is insane. Crimson Ghost's glowing claws punched straight through the skeleton's skull like it was absolutely nothing, clean and super effortless, like slicing through butter. This whole crazy scene made zero sense. Sure, her awesome Earth Azure Dragon could easily crush a skeleton's skull underfoot, but that beast was massive and had pure dragon energy running through its entire body. That creature was built like a tank, rocking hide thick enough to perfectly match a skeleton warrior's defense. But this wild pet of Yeling's just tore through the skull with its bare hands, which meant it could rip right through her Earth Azure Dragon's armor just the same. Initially, Hosener was genuinely thrilled seeing Yeling's pet power up like that. But now, it completely lit a massive competitive fire inside her. If someone like Yang, who absolutely everyone doubted would enter a Spirim Academy, could get this intensely strong, then she definitely could not fall behind. Coming from a top-tier family, and praised as a school genius, there was just absolutely no way she could ever let him outshine her. The fight was basically wrapped up, and just hanging around wouldn't help her get stronger. She'd seen plenty of what Yeling could do. With the Spirit Master Academy selection arriving in just a few days, she had to push super hard to hit Tier 1, Level 8. Because honestly, way better stats always meant a much better chance at scoring a top academy spot. She gave Yeling one last, very long look, while he stood proudly on those bones, then quickly turned and walked away. You and I know he's a total mystery. Now, he hid his true skills so well that literally nobody had a clue. Nobody guessed his spirit pet was this insanely strong. He was definitely going to be the dark horse in the upcoming selection. She really wondered which academy he'd pick, and if they'd maybe become classmates. Hosener had absolutely made up her mind about one major thing, though. Yelling could easily get into literally any top-tier Spearim Academy he desired. The fight made it totally obvious that Crimson Ghost's combat power was nearly on par with her Earth Azure Dragon. With a few more days of training, the creature might actually match her dragon completely. Boasting that kind of epic strength, securing a top academy spot was basically guaranteed. Part of her actually hoped they would end up at the same school. She was seriously dying to know more about the crazy strength Yelling showed off. But there just wasn't time to stick around and figure him out. Today, if they both made it into a Spearim Academy, they could always compare notes later. Meanwhile, Yang had zero clue that Owner had left. From start to finish, his focus was completely locked on the wild battle happening below. So Yelling was finally able to relax once Ju handled that last skeleton soldier. The rest of them just weren't really a problem for him anymore. After that, it was basically just cleanup duty. Crimson Ghost tore through everything without breaking a sweat. The whole fight wrapped up super fast, leaving nothing but massive piles of bones scattered everywhere. While those little soul fires in the skulls slowly and quietly faded. Honestly, kind of a waste since Yelling didn't have a soul bottle to collect them with. Once things finally settled down, Yelling climbed down from the bone pile to check what dropped. Defeated monsters usually leave behind sweet materials or shiny treasures. Could be evolution stuff or something. Super rare, but even after completely clearing out those skeleton soldiers, the loot was super disappointing. Just a handful of random evolution materials that Crimson Ghost couldn't even use. Still, with 3 skeleton soldiers in the mix, Yelling totally figured there had to be something decent lying around. Right about then, the wild berserk effect finally wore off. Shuyu. All that crazy red energy started draining away, while the crimson skin slowly faded back to its usual ghostly pale. So that's where we leave it. Yawing, casually picking through bones on this wrecked battlefield like a scavenger. Stick with me here. Let's dive into something insanely annoying. Even the strongest spirit masters must manually collect their loot after epic battles. Nobody gets a free pass. The entire system creates major problems. Imagine a team barely defeating a monster, only for a rival squad to swoop in and steal the loot before they even react. This happens constantly. The process is so slow and unreliable, making it ridiculously easy to lose items without even realizing. Yelling was just wishing for an automatic pickup feature when the system suddenly pinged him out of nowhere. A fresh notification stated his desire was detected and issued a task. Hit Tier 2 Level 1 to finally unlock automatic pickup, plus gain a mysterious bonus reward. Yelling honestly thought he misheard it at first. Simply thinking about the feature actually made it appear. Feeling magically convenient. He never expected the system to hand out epic quests based strictly on his random thoughts. This made him actually wonder if wanting specific materials would trigger actual missions. So he imagined items his Scarlet Ghost needed for an epic evolution. But the system stayed totally silent. Zero response. No magical task popped up. Turns out, it was absolutely not a glitch. The feature genuinely exists, but remains locked. Hitting Tier 2 Level 1 is the strict requirement. Since he was only at Tier 1, Grade 3, that was a genuinely massive journey ahead. Not totally impossible in days, but absolutely a ridiculously tough grind. Now pay attention here. A faint white glow suddenly catches his eye from under a fallen skeleton soldier. Yelling quickly walked over and flipped the skeleton, revealing a tiny finger-length bone that gave off a beautifully soft white glowing light. The moment he picked it up, he instantly recognized the item. A flawless bone, pure white, perfectly smooth without any scratches. It practically looked like authentic white jade rather than an ordinary old bone. But it was definitely straight from the skeleton soldier. He secured his first evolution material. This genuinely felt like absolute, pure luck. Yelling tucked the flawless bone away carefully, incredibly hyped about this amazing find. Of all materials Scarlet Ghost requires for a gray-eyed zombie form, flawless bone and dark heart are the toughest items to locate. Other materials like lesser dark crystals and dark essence fluid are much easier to gather since They constantly dropped from wandering, shadowy monsters. Down at the burial mound where skeletons roamed, Yeling could snag 2 vital material types for the Crimson Nether evolution: flawless bone and lesser dark crystal. After sweeping another battlefield, he grabbed a lesser dark crystal and told Scarlet Ghost it was time to hunt down their next target. Scarlet Ghost said absolutely nothing, just tilting her head and giving him a completely blank stare. That little gesture looked surprisingly adorable, mostly because her facial features were already insanely delicate anyway. Nobody watching would connect this peaceful girl to the beast going totally feral in battle earlier. Like 2 completely different entities occupying one form. Even Yeling felt that wild contrast, which is probably why he randomly reached out and patted her head without thinking. She stared at him, totally confused, clearly not understanding the sudden random pet. You saw that too, right? Because he is her master, she simply allows it. Spirit masters and their pets share this insanely powerful trust connection, although it is never set in stone. If someone kept betraying their spirit pet, eventually that loyal companion would snap and completely bounce. Extremely rare, though. Most people are not dumb enough to mistreat their loyal pets unless they have some serious psychological problems. The way she stared at him with those big innocent eyes made Yeling feel genuinely quite awkward. He took her pale hand, and they actively pushed toward their next hunting ground. If he seriously wanted to enter a top-tier Spirit Master Academy, he absolutely must grind relentlessly and harder. The absolute biggest trap was growing lazy just because the system existed. Hunting got significantly easier after that, when huge skeleton soldier groups aggressively appeared. Yeling swallowed his pride and skipped them entirely. Scarlet Ghost was simply not strong enough to handle swarms yet, even with frenzy and intense battle lust active. Instead, he targeted smaller squads, just a tiny handful of wandering skeleton troops. Those quick fights were ridiculously easy. Honestly, extremely fun. After grinding for steady hours, Yeling finally finished the epic system mission. Completion granted him 50% experience progress and a cool Scarlet Ghost exclusive outfit. Scarlet Ghost was already at 30% experience before this bonus. Adding 50% literally launched her straight to 80%. Just slightly more, and she hits Tier 1. Level 4. Yeling realized for the very first time that leveling could actually be this simple. So what do you and I make of this? His pet levels up insanely fast. Others would literally lose their minds if they discovered his massive advantage. The awesome reward also included the exclusive outfit, so Yeling pulled it from his system space right away. The beautiful crimson red dress featured solid stats. Stick with me here. This indestructible robe blocked physical and magical strikes. Cleaned itself instantly, but only Scarlet Ghost could actually wear it. No one else could even fit inside. The perks were totally clutch, especially since Scarlet Ghost's aggressive fighting style usually shredded outfits like crazy. After hours of intense combat, her current outfit was already ripped to pieces, with her pale skin showing through random holes here and there. Having his own spirit pet walking around half exposed like that would be incredibly embarrassing in public. This new outfit solved that problem completely. At least he wouldn't have to worry about her aggressive fighting style constantly ruining her clothes anymore. Scarlet Ghost was his spirit pet, so there was no way he'd let her get exposed for random strangers to see. If anyone was going to see that, it would be him and nobody else. This magical garment was exactly what they desperately needed. Yeling passed the crimson-stained robe over to Shu Yu and cheerfully told her to throw it on. The thing was, even though she got smarter lately, combat was her only real skill. Getting dressed simply wasn't her strong suit. She just stood there holding the red robe, completely frozen, not doing anything with it. So, Yeling had to step in and completely help her out himself while getting her changed. He kept scanning the area, making sure nobody crept up on them. Once the coast was totally clear, he started fitting the robe onto her. Standing right there in front of him, her pale skin caught the light. Now watch closely. Yeling caught himself staring way too long, and his nose started tingling with that familiar warm rush. He rushed to get the robe on her properly and tied the sash super tight. Too late though, the warmth was already flowing fast. He nervously reached up and wiped his nose, and sure enough, bright red liquid smeared right across his hand. He tilted his head back, quick to stop the flow. Yu, now fully dressed in the crimson-stained robe, watched him with pure confusion. She totally didn't get what he was doing, but she copied him anyway, tilting her head back exactly, just like him. Her nose scrunched up every few seconds, which made her look surprisingly human. Yeling noticed her cute mimicking and couldn't help cracking up laughing. Having a spirit pet act this human made him genuinely wonder sometimes if she was actually a real person and not just a pet. But nah, Scarlet Ghost was definitely a spirit pet, completely different from regular humans at the core. After a minute, his nose finally stopped running. Yeling simply didn't have time to mess around anymore anyway. He grabbed Shiyu and headed straight for the next hunting spot. He absolutely wasn't planning on taking any breaks until he hit his target. The current goal was simple: rack up the remaining experience before sunset. If Scarlet Ghost leveled up just one more time, both of them would proudly hit Tier 1, Level 4. The intense fighting totally wrapped up right as the golden sun started going down. You felt this coming, right? The system chimed. Scarlet Ghost reached Tier 1, Level 4, scoring another free point. The experience bar was sitting at just over 99%. With that awesome last fight, it finally tipped over to 100. Scarlet Ghost impressively leveled up again, and so did Yeling, both officially hitting Tier 1, Level 4. Nobody would ever buy it if they heard someone jumped 2 full levels in a single day. Anyone who didn't see it happen would completely think the guy was making it up or dreaming. But the system's experience rewards made it entirely possible. Plus, the unique way experience got quantified in the first place. The system handed out 2 50% experience boosts, which was easily enough to level up each time. Unlike everyone else grinding away super slowly, Yeling literally just needed the experience points, and he could level up instantly. Take Ho Shenner, for example. She had been working with her spirit pet for over half a year, and only ever got it to Tier 1, Level 7. Even cutting out the early training period, she had been actively fighting with her Earth Azure Dragon for at least 3 months to reach that strength. That finally put into perspective just how insane jumping to levels in one day actually was. Mission accomplished for the day. With darkness creeping in, Yeling quickly booked it out of the monster mound with Shiyu. Nighttime out in the wild was just a whole different level of dangerous. Tons of monsters only came out after dark, and without sunlight or any real light source. Dealing with even nastier hidden creatures was just asking for serious trouble. Even Yeling couldn't promise he would walk away without getting hurt. He already hit his goal anyway, so no point pushing his luck. Once they cleared the ancient mound, Yeling pulled Scarlet Ghost back into the spirit pet seal. They were close enough to Sky City that the area didn't have any seriously dangerous beasts roaming around at all. No real threat of getting jumped, which was exactly why he felt safe storing Scarlet Ghost away. Let's pause right here. Passing the checkpoint, Yeling walked back into Tenhoi City's familiar streets. Funny enough, he literally used to hate this place. Back then, his future honestly looked pretty bleak. Either stay a regular nobody, join the army as some grunt soldier, or maybe try out the mercenary life if he wanted much better pay. But mercenary work meant serious danger, and higher pay always came with higher risk. That kind of life simply had no real future in it. So naturally, the city felt suffocating. But everything is different now. Yeling has completely transformed, and his power just skyrocketed to Tier 1, Level 4. Let's dive right in. Yeling has this crazy spirit pet that evolves into something absolutely legendary. Life is looking seriously amazing right now. His leveling speed is totally insane. Nobody in the entire Federation even comes close. But that just makes him hungrier for power. Because hey, that is exactly how this wild world works. Get strong, unlock epic perks, get recruited by top factions, and watch everyone else back off in pure fear. Starting today, Yeling is going all out. He is ready to climb straight to the top, and he knows he will get there. This tiny Tanhui city? It is just his starting zone, not his final destination. He flags down a car, drops his address, and kicks back to check out his epic loot from today. His Scarlet Ghost picked up a flawless crystal, and 5 lesser dark gems for evolution materials. Plus, its growth rate jumped over 10% in just one single day, which sounds small, but is actually huge. Growth rate is not like regular experience points. It usually takes tons of intense battles to build up slowly. Getting that much in one day is mind-blowing. His Scarlet Ghost hit Tier 1, Level 4, earning a sweet free skill point. The only problem? There is absolutely nothing worth spending it on right now. Sure, he could pump up his spiritual skills, but Yeling is just not feeling it right now. He only has 400 spiritual power, and higher skill levels drain way more of his energy. What he is right now works perfectly. Level 1 skills get the job done. Maybe he will upgrade at Tier 2, or if he finds a way to boost his raw power directly. But that is not happening yet. Now watch closely. He is saving that point because his Scarlet Ghost might unlock a game-changing talent down the line. His stats look incredible compared to when he first unlocked the system. He is already several times stronger. And that is just from the Scarlet Ghost's very first evolution, all in less than 24 hours. He still has several days before the Academy selection. That is plenty of time to level up himself and his partner. He is fully confident he will ace the Academy exams. To focus on grinding, he decides to straight up skip school for the next few days. Sitting in class is a total waste when he could be outside hunting beasts, racking up massive experience, and scoring epic loot. Even the random drops he does not need can easily sell online for shiny federal points. And with those federal points, he can easily buy rare evolution materials he cannot find himself. Hunting outside the city is basically all profit, minus the wild danger part. While he is planning this epic grind, his ride pulls up right to his front door. He pays the driver and dashes straight to his room. First order of business? Calling his teacher to demand some time off. Obviously, the teacher is not having it at first. The big assessment is coming, so why ditch class right now? Yeling simply tells him he found a way to level up, and with enough time, he is guaranteed to make the academy. But honestly, that bold claim alone is not quite enough to get his strict teacher to approve the leave. The teacher only ended up making a rare exception after hearing about his amazing spirit pet's hidden potential. If the pet could truly level up, just like Yeling claimed, holding him back was totally pointless. Plus, having a newly overpowered student in his class seriously boosts his own teacher reputation. You and I know Yeling was never exactly a star student, right? But the kid is solid and super hardworking, so there was zero reason to think he would lie about something this huge. A few days off was not going to hurt anyone, so the teacher officially approved the leave. With all that free time now, Yeling set himself up with the ultimate grinding routine. Pack food, head out at sunrise, grind until sunset, and focus absolutely everything on making himself and his partner unstoppable. That first training day hit him like a massive truck, though. He passed out the very second his head hit the pillow. Meanwhile, across town in a massive, fancy courtyard, Huo Shenner was having the complete opposite kind of night. She could not sleep at all. She just kept tossing and turning, because her racing mind simply would not shut off. Earlier today, she bumped into Yeling and his crazy undead pet. When she got home, she told her dad absolutely everything. The problem? Her dad, Huo Qingshan, did not buy it for a second. Nobody in the Federation had ever seen an undead evolve. They were all supposed to be clumsy, basic creatures. At least, that is what everyone believed. Even Huo Shenner refused to believe it at first, but she saw the truth. That creature did not just evolve, it became terrifyingly powerful. Her dad just brushed it off, claiming it was probably some rare spirit variant, or just a weirdly mutated monster. He clearly was not buying the insane evolution story, so Huo Shenner dropped it and tried keeping it to herself. But that night, her racing brain simply refused to let it go. Every single time she closed her eyes, She kept seeing Yeling and that insanely strong phantom from earlier today. They barely even knew each other. But trust me, that wild encounter? It is going to change everything for them. Stick with me here. We are jumping into an epic arc. Yang just slept like a rock all night without waking once. First light, he smashed breakfast, grabbed lunch, caught a taxi, and rushed straight out of town. Absolutely no time to waste. Every single second mattered for his power-up. Day 2 put him back at the ruins, totally destroying every skeleton that dared to spawn. It did not matter if they were tiny foot soldiers or those huge, heavy sergeants. Yang was showing zero mercy out there. He even bumped into a few skeleton officers this round, and they were seriously tough to handle. Most were parked around Tier 1, Level 7, or higher. That still could not slow him and Sue down at all though. Thanks to that super handy system mission backing them, they both smacked Tier 1, Level 6 by sunset, stacking over 50% extra experience right on top of it all. Since their levels were way higher now, the experience from smashing regular skeleton soldiers and warriors was not nearly as crazy as yesterday, but they still jumped more than 2 levels because of an unfinished mission. 100 Bone Strike, which gave a full level just for crushing 100 enemies. Seriously, nobody in the entire Federation was leveling up this incredibly fast. On top of levels, Yang piled up a solid stash of evolution materials, easily grabbing over 10 lesser dark crystals. He still needed a Heart of Darkness and some dark essence, but those rare items absolutely never dropped in the skeletal ruins. To get those, he had to track down real dark-type monsters. Since Tian City had exactly 0 of those, Yang would just have to hop online and buy the Heart and Dark Essence liquid, if he actually wanted them. But honestly, our guy was not sweating it. Evolution required way more than just grabbing rare materials anyway. His pet's growth rate had to hit 100% first, and Crimson Phantom sat at 17.8. Maxing that out would take ages, so rushing for evolution gear made totally 0 sense. Even with the system backing him, there was absolutely no way he could evolve before the Spirit Master Academy assessment finally rolled around. Since that ship had totally sailed, wasting energy on it was pointless. For 3 days straight, Yang kept things super simple, just bouncing straight between home and the daily grinding spot. Out every single morning, back by night, same exact routine every day. During that intense stretch, both he and Crimson Phantom climbed right up to level 9 of the first tier. The crazy pace slowed to around 1 level per day. The system stopped tossing out tasks, and when it did, the rewards were not always pure experience points. Plus, as their levels climbed way higher, monsters started dropping less and less experience. Now, you and I know this is totally unfair, right? Any normal spirit summoner would completely lose their mind seeing him complain about 1 level up daily. Talk about making everyone else feel terrible. As Crimson Phantom leveled up, the beast got wildly faster and insanely stronger across the board. Yang felt super confident that even in its normal state, Crimson Phantom could throw down with Shenner's Earth Azure Dragon and honestly come out on top. And that was only just the baseline. If Crimson Phantom popped Berserk and Frenzy, the power spike would be totally insane. Yang had not actually fought any serious Tier 2 enemies yet, but his gut feeling said that even if he lost, he absolutely would not get stomped either. When Crimson Phantom finally hit Tier 1, Level 9, Yang snagged another free point, bringing his brand new total right up to 7. Crimson Phantom's incredible talents were totally ready for upgrades now. Physical defense, magic resistance, and super regeneration could all take point upgrades. Obviously, Yang was never going to pass up a golden chance to get even stronger. With 7 points and 3 talents, the math was incredibly easy. He bumped physical and magic damage reduction straight up into the intermediate level range. Super regeneration barely changed much, mostly just reducing stamina drain a bit. The exact second Yang read that description, he wanted to kick himself. It was completely useless, since Crimson Phantom literally already possessed unlimited stamina. Basically just flushed a free point straight down the toilet. Crimson Phantom did unlock one brand new talent though, called Shadow Mist. It let the beast turn to mist and zoom around at totally crazy speeds. But it could not attack while in that form. After grinding his heart out for days, Yang was firmly in a completely different league than before. Can you believe this? Our guy rocketed from Tier 1, Level 2 to Level 9 in less than a single week. Nobody in the entire Federation had ever leveled that incredibly fast. Even Huo Shenner, who worked endlessly and sat at Level 7 before this all started, had only managed to scrape her way up to 8. Yang had straight up blown right past her. Lucky for him, they had not really crossed paths lately, so absolutely nobody knew he was secretly packing Tier 1 Level 9 strength. The Spirit Master Academy assessment was happening tomorrow, and Yang sitting at Level 9 made him basically a complete anomaly among all high schoolers in Tianwei City. Trust me, we are about to watch his incredible power absolutely blow everyone's minds. Let's dive right in. Our guy was already picturing all 4 major spirit academies fighting over him, waving wild offers, and arguing about who gets him. With his prep completely done, Yelling felt surprisingly chill that night, and just slept like an absolute rock. It is funny how totally relaxing it feels once the intense grind ends and the real test is approaching. Our boy had enough power to handle whatever was coming next, which totally meant he could finally kick back. Night vanished quickly. Morning rolled around and bright sunlight hit the massive walls of sky. Glory City, making the entire ancient place look just absolutely incredible. But today felt different, since the entire sky was packed with airships arriving from everywhere. Each ship was marked with symbols from different spirit academies, all heading straight toward the city lord's mansion downtown. The mansion had this giant square out front that could easily fit every single arriving airship. Right up front were 4 gigantic ships representing the big 4 academies: Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise. These were the very best schools in the entire Federation, and right behind them came smaller ships from the advanced academies, then mid-tier ones, and finally the bottom-tier schools with their tiny airships. The crazy size difference basically proved who got the most funding, since the Federation, obviously, pumped huge resources into top schools. Standing at the center of this huge event was City Lord Shang Lingkong, looking like an average middle-aged guy, but clearly in charge, with strict guards standing entirely stiff around him. Even he had to take these Academy VIPs seriously, because the Big Four's representatives were all 7th-tier Spirit Masters, basically just as strong as he was. Basically top-tier elite fighters in the entire Federation. The airships finally touched down, and people in various school uniforms started pouring out. Leading the elite pack were Lu Fang from Azure Dragon, Bong from White Tiger, Hong Su, and Huing from the Black Tortoise. Now pay attention here. Shang Lingkong knew the first 3 perfectly from past recruitment runs. But Huing, she was a totally complete mystery this time. Shang Lingkong burst out laughing and happily walked up to greet them, joking about how he had been waiting absolutely forever. The Academy reps greeted him respectfully, because even though Sky Glory was not exactly a massive city, Shang Lingkong still held a solid rank within the Federation. The top academies had massive Federation clout, but their reps stayed humble around him anyway. Spirit Masters totally knew that making friends was smarter than making dangerous enemies. Hu Ling looked like she was in her early 20s, boasting delicate features and this stunning beauty, mark right by her eye, making her seem incredibly charming. She was totally the type who could make anyone fall for her without even trying. She laughed very softly and introduced herself to Shang Lingkong. I know what you are thinking. Representing the Holy City's Huo family and Xuan Wu Academy. She mentioned coming down specifically to check out that famous branch family girl everyone kept talking about. Shang Lingkong greeted her politely, since she was not acting arrogant at all. Hu Ling was actually a senior teacher at Xuan Wu Academy before even hitting 30, which officially made her an absolute, legit genius. Being from the Holy City's Huo family meant she was one of her generation's absolute top prodigies. and after graduating from Xuanwu herself, she just stayed on as a teacher there. Everyone else had spent years grinding hard just to reach the top. Meanwhile, Huing was sitting pretty as a level 7, 7th tier spirit master before even turning 30. This incredible girl had a totally legit shot at reaching the legendary 9th tier. Looking around at the other 3 elite academy teachers, Huing noticed they were all pushing 30, which made them definitely older than her. Normally another rep from Xuanwu Spirit Master Academy would handle this exact trip. But things were completely different this time around. Word got out that some amazing prodigy popped up in the Huo family over in Tiani City. Since Hu Ling shared the same family name, rooting her would be way easier. Plus, she was curious as hell about what kind of genius could emerge from a backwater like Tiani City. Growing up in the Holy City meant her talent standards were absolutely sky high. The entire reason for this trip was purely checking out this Huo family kid. Shang Ling Kong obviously knew exactly who Huing meant. The Huo family had this genius daughter, and Huo Qingzan, the family head, was absolutely not keeping her quiet. Having a true prodigy was perfect for boosting their family reputation, so why would he ever hide it? Shang Ling Kong confidently confirmed Huo Shanner was the real deal, easily one of the best in her generation around Tiani City, and ranked highly at Tianhui High School. He knew her, though honestly, he was not super into recruiting sheltered family kids. Those types always put their own families first instead of the Federation. So what do we learn here? He preferred regular folks who would actually join the military and defend cities. Come along with me here. Sure, the elite families lived in the cities, but when things got tough, they only cared about saving themselves, abandoning everyone else. Hearing Shang Ling Kong confirm the hype got Huing super pumped. After all, meeting the brilliant Ho Chenner was her entire reason for visiting. She certainly didn't want to make this journey for nothing. Whether Huozhen would join the Iwanu Spirit Master Academy wasn't even a question for Hu Ling. With those family TIs, she wasn't going anywhere else. The other 3 teachers just offered tired smiles. What could they actually do? Huing had the powerful family angle, and they simply didn't. So, they just sat there, helpless, watching a highly promising recruit slip right through their fingers. Tian City wasn't just about Honor. The place was packed with truly talented kids. Every year the academies rolled through, they'd snag a few promising students. Though most came from incredibly wealthy families, it totally made sense. Those elite kids had access to vastly superior resources from day one. They never had to wait around for the Federation to hand out spirit pet eggs like the regular folks. Their families just handed them over directly. So naturally, these lucky kids started miles ahead of everyone else. As long as they weren't totally lazy and actually put in some effort. Getting into a top-tier Spirit Master Academy was basically a guaranteed victory. Even the lazy ones could smoothly slide into an advanced academy without facing much trouble. For regular students, however, cracking into a top-tier academy was absolutely brutal. Not totally impossible, but incredibly close. Every now and then, some lucky kid would actually stumble onto a seriously powerful spirit pet. If they worked their absolute hardest training, they might just squeeze through the door. After graduating, most of these students either stayed as teachers, joined a wealthy family, or entered the military. Pretty much everyone ended up picking one of those 3 paths. Alright, everyone is here. Let's move out. Heading to the assessment site now, Shen Ling Kong announced with a bold wave. His guards started moving, clearing the way. Shen Ling Kong and the 4 top academies followed closely behind, while lower-ranked academies had to strictly fall in line by status. The whole crew boarded the special train Shen Ling Kong had arranged, and it slowly rolled toward Tenwei City High School. Now pay attention here. Yelling woke up early, got dressed, and headed straight for school. After all the intense secret leveling up he'd been doing, his body felt completely different today. Even after running super hard for half an hour, he barely felt winded. Before long, he was standing back at the school he hadn't seen in days. These next 2 days would be the absolute last time the senior set foot on campus. After tomorrow, everyone's life would split into completely different directions. Some would get picked up by spirit academies, instantly becoming the kind of elite spirit masters that regular people looked up to. The ones who totally missed the cut would either become ordinary civilians just trying to scrape by, join Sky Radiant City's military as basic recruits to guard the walls, or take the dangerous mercenary route, if they actually had the guts, though that meant constantly risking their lives. Beyond those options, there really wasn't much else out there. That is just how this world worked. Cold and totally brutal. Only spirit masters could actually change their lives. Regular people stayed. Regular people with zero chance of climbing up on their own. Every single year, roughly half the students at Tiani City High School got knocked down to ordinary status. Their fates essentially sealed for life. Even in the military, regular folks hit a wall fast since all the higher-ranking positions were strictly locked down for spirit masters only. We both know this feeling, right? Walking back into the classroom, Yeling saw familiar faces. Today, some would celebrate, while others would be entirely crushed. His loyal friend Chenji had been absolutely worried sick, wondering what the heck happened, since Yeling hadn't shown up for days and ignored every single message. Chenji finally heard from a teacher that Yang had taken a leave, which definitely calmed him down. He knew Yeling was actually a brilliant student, just unfairly cursed with a totally useless pet. Chenji figured Yang gave up on the whole assessment thing, so seeing him walk in today truly caught him off guard. The exact second Chenny spotted Yeling, he marched right up and punched him hard in the shoulder. "Where the heck have you been hiding? I couldn't reach you at all. If the teacher hadn't mentioned your leave, I would have thought you straight up vanished," he said. Looking at Yang, who seemed weirdly confident, Chenju laughed with relief, while Yang just gently patted his friend's shoulder with a huge grin. "Relax. Nothing is going to happen to me. Been training these past few days. Remember what I confidently said before about getting into a top-tier Spirit Master Academy?" The way Yeling said it, he sounded absolutely positive that he could pull it off. For context, the absolute strongest seniors at Tenwei City High School were Ho Shenner and her crew, sitting comfortably at level 7 or 8 of the first tier. "Trust me, watch this." Yeling had already hit level 9, basically crushing absolutely everyone else. "Stick with me, you and I are about to watch an underdog completely shock everyone." If his power level couldn't guarantee a top Spirit Academy spot, those recruiters would be totally blind. Cheng just nodded, backing Yelling's unshakable confidence. But the rest of the class immediately started whispering the second they heard Yeling speak. And yeah, every single word was pure, disrespectful mockery. People called him completely delusional for even dreaming he could step foot into a top-tier academy, asking if the guy even knew his own place, laughing about his totally useless spirit pet, joking that he was just destined to end up as some regular nobody anyway. The whole class knew about Yelling's famously trash-tier spirit pet, so nobody respected him at all. They figured he had absolutely zero chance of entering any academy, not even the absolute worst ones. The garbage insults kept flying, but Yelling just completely ignored them. Let them talk their trash right now. He knew they'd be choking on every single word the second that assessment finally rolled around. Arguing with these losers was just a massive waste of energy anyway. Meanwhile, Chenzi was visibly clenching his fists, absolutely furious at the endless trash talk, and ready to explode. But Yeling just tapped his shoulder, telling him to chill out and ignore them since the big assessment was coming up super fast anyway. Once the dust finally settled, everyone would see the truth. Now watch closely, because this is where the drama starts. He casually walked to his desk, with Chenzi trailing behind, completely ignoring one guy glaring absolute daggers at him. It was Liu Wu, the exact same guy who mocked him days ago. Liu Wu was the heir to the Liu clan, some second-rate family in Tiani City. Honestly though, his actual talent was incredibly average, painfully stuck right at level 5 of the very first rank. He literally just had rich parents. His grades were always worse than Yelling's. So he absolutely loved mocking the weak spirit pet just to make his own pathetic self feel superior. Back at home, Liu Wu's dad was constantly tearing into him for being lazy and completely wasting his wealthy family privileges by failing to be a top-tier student. Hitting level 5 might impress regular kids, but with Liu Wu's massive family resources, it was an absolute pathetic joke. The absolute best students were already at level 7 or 8. That gap sounds small, but each single level jump actually made a huge, real difference. His dad, Liu Yun, was totally stuck at the 10th grade of level 5, trapped there basically forever. The other second-rate family leaders were definitely not quite as strong, but their kids completely outclassed Liu Wu. This humiliated Liu Yun so badly that he would just constantly lecture his son over his terrible weakness. Liu Wu hated the scolding, but since he couldn't ever talk back, he viciously bullied his classmates instead, just to feel like a big boss. He couldn't try that tough guy act everywhere in school, simply because tons of other rich kids were just as strong, or even way stronger, even some from his own clan, but his specific class was totally different. Almost zero elite family kids were here, and the few minor clan members present were either exactly his level or just pathetically weaker. Absolutely nobody dared cross him, meaning Liu Wu got to act like a total boss inside that one single classroom, and he absolutely despised Yelling, who consistently scored way better academic grades than him. So Liu Wu carried this massive, fragile ego problem, just because another dude was better looking and pulled higher grades, leaving him feeling like absolute garbage. He took his bitter frustration out on Yelling, a guy he used to work with. Honestly, it quickly became his absolute favorite hobby. Every single time he trashed Yelling, it perfectly vented all that miserable, built-up anger. Eventually, poor Yelling basically morphed into his very own personal punching bag. Liu Wu kept things completely verbal, though. Even he wasn't actually dumb enough to start throwing real punches inside Tenwei City High School. Not when the city lord runs the place as principal. So Yelling used to just silently absorb all of Liu Wu's toxic abuse. Because really, what else could he even do? He had absolute zero connections, while Liu Wu's dad ran a powerful second-rate family. We both know that story, right? But everything completely changed the moment Yelling scored his epic second chance at life. Suddenly, all of Liu Wu's toxic insults just bounced harmlessly right off him. His past life's brutal corporate grind taught him never to waste precious energy on pathetic drama. Now, his mind was absolutely laser-focused on gaining real power, knowing everything else would naturally fall into place afterwards. Because without strength, everything else stays impossible. So Yelling just completely blocked out Liu Wu's toxic garbage. This literally drove Liu Wu absolutely insane. Because his hateful insults were suddenly landing like weak punches against a soft, useless pillow. The harder Yelling ignored him, the more absolutely furious Liu Wu became, bitterly thinking, who exactly does this trash think he is? Just totally acting like the top student doesn't even exist. Liu Wu kept getting angrier with every brush off, bitterly muttering that Yelling could act arrogant all he wanted. Because after today's major assessment, everything was about to completely change. He completely laughed off Yelling's bold talk about entering some elite spirit academy as pure, delusional fantasy. Just the thought of watching Yelling brutally crash and burn as a powerless nobody, failing to enter even the worst bottom-tier academy, honestly filled him with an incredibly sick, twisted satisfaction. When the homeroom teacher walked in to explain the exam breakdown, it was the exact same setup as always. Split right into 2 parts. Trust me, you'll love this. Phase 1 dumps all students into a secret realm literally packed with first-tier beasts. Stick with me here. Monsters capped at level 10, surviving 3 whole days. Push through without giving up, and Phase 1 is totally in the bag. But the Academy made it totally clear. They aren't responsible if someone gets permanently taken out by a beast because they refuse to surrender. This wild trial tested raw survival instincts, just like combat. Out there, making it back in one piece matters most. If you can't handle the pressure, being a spirit master just isn't happening. Anyone passing Phase 1 automatically secured a Spirit Academy spot and advanced to Part 2, which was pure, head-to-head combat. Students grouped up for fierce tournament matches. Winners kept climbing higher, while the losers got sorted into lower tiers. Lose round 1, and well, simply congrats. Your only option becomes a lower academy, but keep winning, and better doors fly open. The top 10 finalists get a huge shot at elite, top-tier schools. Even 10th place guaranteed a really high-level academy at minimum. Matches lasted until a spirit pet collapsed or someone finally threw in the towel. Sure, it sounds brutal, but it was perfectly fair. Raw skill decided everything, and rich kids couldn't buy a spot because federal officials supervised the entire event to keep it clean. The federal officials would absolutely crack down hard if anything shady happened. Now pay attention here. After explaining the test rules, their teacher pushed his glasses up, looking totally, incredibly serious. Years had literally flown by, and he truly hoped everyone made it into their dream Spirit Academy. He warned them to know their limits and never push too far, because students could permanently lose everything. Coming back safe mattered most. Once you were gone, it is over. The entire room went completely silent. His heavy tone proved this was no joke. The trial was going to be legitimately dangerous. A few nervous girls started totally panicking. One girl asked with a shaking voice if students actually lost their lives out there. Better to learn the truth now than face disaster later. The teacher simply nodded, confirming her absolute worst fears. Pure dread rippled through the whole classroom instantly. The exact same panic was hitting other classes too. The only students keeping calm were those confident in their skills. Yang was absolutely one of them. He actually looked super interested in the trial. Zero fear on his face. Right then, the system flashed, popping up with a brand new epic mission. You and I need to see this. Pass Phase 1 and score 3 spirit crystals. Yeling never saw rewards like that. He lacked spiritual energy crystals, so he couldn't test them yet. But the epic name clearly suggested they were somehow connected to a spiritual energy boost. This first assessment was an absolute joke for Yang. He already reached 9th level first rank, and his spirit pet Su matched his power. Together, they could effortlessly wipe out any beast under the 2nd rank. A 2nd rank beast might push them, but Su could easily ensure their perfect escape. Since this trial realm only featured first-tier monsters, the whole event was an absolute breeze. The teacher announced time was up, ordering everyone to the square for Phase 1. Without another word, he confidently strode right out the heavy door. Students just sat there staring, completely frozen. Most of these kids had absolutely zero combat practice, let alone experiencing actual, real-world frightening monster battles. Entering that secret realm felt like marching straight into a war zone with zero guarantee of returning. Everyone feared the worst possible outcome. Yeling casually glanced over at Chenny sitting beside him. Noticing his buddy looked completely zoned out, he cheerfully smacked Chenji's shoulder and laughed, saying his power was totally solid enough to pass. And honestly, that wasn't just empty comfort talking either. Shinu actually packed decent skills. His spirit pet, the Gale Wolf, had proudly reached level 4 first tier. Not insanely high, but fantastic for an average student. Plus, the Gale Wolf boasted rare growth potential, making it a top-tier pet among regular students. With that awesome power level, clearing the first trial would be ridiculously easy. Seriously, zero reason to panic. Cheng Shi finally snapped out of his daze, and playfully shoved Yang's hand right off his tense shoulder. He claimed he wasn't terrified, merely lost in thought. Yeling just laughed, saying, "Yeah, whatever." He stood up and confidently exited the room. Chenzi quickly jumped up and followed right behind his best friend. Nobody else dared to move. Liu Wu had entirely planned to stand up first, desperately wanting to look like the absolute coolest guy in the room. But just as he tried flexing, Yang and Chenny had already strutted completely out of the classroom, without a single care. Weren't they terrified at all? The stunned class started whispering. People admitted they never realized Yang was this brave with a basic pet. and their respect for his fearless attitude was seriously growing super fast. Trust me, you and I love this. Even girls who mocked him saw him differently, while Liu Wu's face just boiled with pure, bitter rage. Stick with me here. Liu Wu clenched his fist until it ached, staring at Yeling with pure rage. He wanted to storm over and throw a massive punch right then, but instead, he stood completely frozen because honestly, he lacked the courage for it. Even if his courage was multiplied by 100, Liu Wu knew better than starting fights at school. The academy leaders would crush him, and not even his rich dad could bail him out of that epic mess. So instead, he just snorted, softly muttered something about getting payback later, and then quickly got up to follow everyone else. The classroom quickly emptied out as nervous students shuffled toward the doors. Everyone knew today was the day their futures got decided. No point fighting it. They would either pass this huge assessment or return to boring, totally normal lives, just like everyone else. Class after class, teachers herded the hopeful kids toward the central square where all the senior students were currently gathering. Tianhai High School had roughly 1,000 to 2,000 kids testing every single year, but usually less than half survived that crazy first selection round. Out of them, even fewer actually entered a Spirit Master Academy, and just a tiny handful scored coveted spots at the absolute top-tier schools. The top 10 rankings practically always belonged to the same legendary overachievers, so nobody expected any wild surprises here today. The square filled with over 1,000 anxious students, but the front row stayed totally empty. That space belonged to the elite Spirit Master reps. The seating showed a super strict power hierarchy. The 4 elite academies sat up front, followed by advanced, intermediate, and finally lower-tier schools. Dozens of awesome academies. City Lord Mansion guards powerfully marched in first, clearing a wide path for Shen Lingkong, who proudly strolled out, looking like he completely owned everything. Behind him walked the fierce reps from the 4 top academies, trailing confidently behind. Watch closely. Most students had never seen anything this massive, and the excited crowd instantly started buzzing. Someone gasped at how awesome the Azure Dragon emblem looked on their uniforms. Another kid argued the white tiger was way more intimidating. Some excited girls chimed in that Suzaku was clearly prettiest. Everyone chattered like they already scored an acceptance letter, even though deep down, most of them completely knew they lacked any real shot at the Elite Four. Those sacred spots belonged to true geniuses. Over in another class section, Huo Shanner stood proudly at the very front, since the lineup strictly ranked by strength, and she was her group's best. She barely glanced at the academy reps before her eyes started scanning the massive crowd, obviously searching for someone specific. Obviously, she wanted Yeling, the mysterious guy who had completely shocked her days ago. She totally knew his class, but since Yeling never bothered showing off his amazing abilities, he got stuck hiding way in the back of his line. Too many noisy people blocked her, so, after hopelessly searching without spotting him, genuine disappointment crept across her face. These past few days, she was grinding non-stop, absolutely terrified of Yeling catching up to her high level. Just yesterday, her Earth Azure Dragon finally hit 8th level first tier, and she broke through to 8th rank, first tier herself, becoming incredibly stronger than ever before. She practically lived in the wilderness these past few days, exactly like Yeling. You know that feeling, right? His pressure made her completely obsessed with growing stronger. Not that she actually needed to worry. With her incredible original strength, she could easily walk into any top academy. Plus, her dad, Huo Kingen, had proudly mentioned the Zuanwu Spirit Master Academy rep actually came directly from the main Huo family branch in the Holy City. This basically meant Shanner was totally locked in for admission, though she wasn't relying purely on those deep family connections. Seriously, Huo Shanner was already incredibly talented anyway, and super lucky too. Some elite family members already proudly attended Zuanwu Spirit Master Academy. The truth is, she still strictly needed to take the huge assessment and conquer the top 10. Failing that goal would have honestly sucked so badly for her. Even with her family representing the powerful academy, she received absolutely zero special treatment here. When Shanner completely failed to spot Yeling, she initially felt pretty bummed out, but she quickly bounced back easily, figuring he must have grown ridiculously stronger by now. Even with all these highly talented seniors gathering everywhere, she just had this strong gut feeling that Yeling would definitely crack the top 10, though she honestly couldn't explain why. Maybe because his beast Shuyu looked incredibly powerful that one time. The students were getting their first real look at this massive scene, feeling totally pumped, but also understandably nervous. And the massive square was growing loud with anxious chatter. Meanwhile, Yeling stood quietly at the back of his class, saying absolutely nothing while scanning the powerful representatives up on stage. The weakest rep there was a 5th level master. That was totally wild, considering even the proud heads of second-rate Tianhai City families only ever hit 5th level at best. Trust me, these academies were absolutely stacked. Shen Lingkong had enough of the noise. He yelled for total silence, and suddenly, his incredibly powerful aura just completely washed over the entire square. Stick with me here. The place went totally silent. Not because these kids suddenly learned manners, but because his intense presence literally forced their mouths shut. Even standing way in the back, Yeling felt this intense weight pressing down on him. Exactly, like carrying something incredibly massive. But the pressure faded super fast. Shen Lingkong just wanted a little quiet, not to actually hurt a single person here. After all, these kids were top Federation talents from Sky Radiant City, so obviously, he wasn't going to mess them up today. Shen Lingkong looked satisfied with the utter silence. He nodded, then finally got right into the big Spirit Master Academy assessment speech. He explained that the folks behind him were reps from different academies across the Federation, and getting accepted was completely in their hands. Before launching into a super long explanation about the 2-part exam, he gave this exact same speech every single year, so most people were completely sick of hearing it. But Shen Lingkong didn't care at all. He saw this as building the Federation's future and gearing up to fight off monsters. After what totally felt like forever, he finally wrapped up the test details and whipped out a strange wristwatch. He announced this teleportation watch was their absolute lifeline. If things got way too dangerous in there, pressing that button would instantly pull them out safely. Now, pay close attention here. He made it crystal clear. Hitting that SOS button for literally any reason meant failing the exam completely. Then he suddenly yelled, asking if everyone understood. That insane volume spike made a bunch of students jump, and they immediately shouted back that they completely understood. Shen Lingkong looked totally satisfied with their energy. He waved his hand, bringing out a group of soldiers carrying the watches he just mentioned. Every single student got one based on their class. When Yang looked down at his, he noticed a really strange power radiating right off it. He didn't totally understand what this strange force was, but he figured it definitely had something to do with how the device worked. It was most likely the exact feature that would teleport students back when hitting the distress button. Right at that moment, Shen Lingkong pulled out a completely dark blue bead. It had this crazy, misty look inside, almost like pure art. Too bad it wasn't just for show though. He held the mystical bead high and started explaining to all the super curious students what it really was. So, Shen Lingkong told the crowd he would use this exact bead to crack wide open the passage to the secret realm, and all the students would head inside, one by one. The bead actually looked incredibly sick, and it turned out to be the ultimate key for this entire wild assessment. Everyone was insanely curious about what kind of crazy power it packed, but most kids were still completely shook from earlier when Shen Lingkong flexed his intense aura and scared the absolute crap out of them. So nobody wanted to say a word, even though they were dying to know more. I know what you're thinking. Finally, the good stuff. Shen Lingkong wrapped up his intro, his eyes turning crazy intense as he casually tossed that little bead straight up. Boom! A totally massive energy wave just exploded from him. He pumped pure spiritual energy straight into it, turning what looked like a regular, simple decorative bead into something incredibly bright and glowing. After soaking up all that raw power, the whole object got wrapped in a faint blue light, and the mist inside started churning like crazy. After a moment, Shang Lingkong finally stopped channeling his energy. He gave the brightly glowing bead a quick, satisfied nod before aggressively chucking it right forward without a single second of hesitation. The regular students, not from those elite, fancy families, were completely confused as hell about what the city lord was actually doing. But what happened next totally blew their minds. The bead just stopped dead midair right above the square, floating perfectly there like it was absolutely nothing. The mist inside was churning like absolute madness. Honestly, it looked like the bead could barely contain the pressure. Pretty soon, all that weird misty stuff started leaking out, rapidly spreading to both sides. The elite kids up front weren't freaked out since they already knew the drill, but literally everyone else was totally tripping out. That thick mist kept spreading around the bead, finally forming a massive circle twice as tall as a person. It was basically a huge door made of constantly shifting fog. Shan Lingkong loudly announced that the secret realm gate was officially open. He gave them all a quick heads up that they'd be dropped into entirely random starting spots. His only guarantee, every single student would land completely alone. No, 2 people together. He made it clear that whatever they hunted or defeated inside was completely theirs to keep for themselves. He finally wrapped everything up, officially starting the very first phase of the assessment with a dramatic wave of his hand. The teachers quickly started guiding students from every single class into the glowing passage. With all those elite representatives, the city, lord, and strict teachers watching closely, absolutely nobody was dumb enough to start any real trouble. Yang's luck was absolute trash though. His specific class ended up going dead last, and he actually happened to be the very last person in line too. He was literally the final student entering. Ready for the madness? Let's dive in together. The Spirit Master Academy reps were already sizing up students, starting their intense selection process. Hu Ling from Xuanwu Academy kept his eyes locked on Hasaner the entire time, nodding with total approval. He could not guess her true power level yet, but his first impression? Totally solid. Plus, she honestly looked amazing. Meanwhile, Yang strolled at the very back, watching that glowing passage get closer and closer. He felt absolutely hyped about this entire wild adventure. As Shang Lingkong promised, everything found inside the secret realm was his to keep. Huge news, since his shadow ghost needed the heart of darkness and dark shadow essence to keep on evolving. The catch? Neither existed anywhere near Sky City. Sure, he could definitely buy them online, but with a seriously pathetic amount of federal credits, that just was absolutely not happening. He gathered materials for the past few days, but selling them online takes time. Those credits would not hit his account anytime soon. If he somehow bagged the heart of darkness or dark essence inside this secret realm, the entire trip would become totally, completely worth it. He had no clue if that would actually work out, but that certainly did not stop him getting hyped. Over on the sidelines, Bong from White Tiger Academy suddenly locked his sharp eyes on Yelling. The guy had insane, crazy keen senses for reading auras, and he definitely picked up a totally unique vibe from Yelling. Most of the students at the back were stressing so incredibly hard about simply passing their very first test. But Yelling? He was just operating on another level. Standing way in the back usually meant being weak, but somehow, this mysterious guy just radiated an absolutely crazy, unmatched level of pure confidence. Bong noticed it instantly, and this was definitely not some fake, flashy bravado. This kid truly believed in his own power. How could the absolute last place student walk around with so much unbelievable swagger? Now, that was seriously super interesting. Bong could not figure out what Yang was secretly planning, but the kid absolutely grabbed his full attention. I really wonder what his secret is, Bong thought to himself. Lu Fang from Azure Dragon Academy suddenly noticed him staring hard and quickly asked what was up. Bong did not even try hiding it. He pointed straight at Yang, who was just about to head right into the secret realm. Look at that student. He is absolutely last in class. but strolling around like he totally owns the place. Watch closely now. Either he is bluffing, or he hides an epic secret. It is getting super interesting. Lu Fang followed his gaze and spotted Yeling steadily approaching the gate. Pure confidence radiated right off him. Even Lu Fang could truly feel it. Frowning slightly, he wondered exactly what gave this bottom-ranked kid such intense nerve. They were entering a tough first-tier realm where monsters easily reached level 9 or 10. The lowest students were usually just stuck around level 1 or 2, maybe. With good luck, they pass. With bad luck, they get utterly destroyed before they could even blink or teleport out. Since Bong and Lu Fang were practically shouting, Hong Shu from Vermilion Bird and Hu Ling from Black Tortoise completely caught on and turned to check out Yeling too. Hu Ling leaned into her chair. I do not know why he is so bold, but he feels entirely right. Being a spirit master demands confidence. You and I know facing monsters with zero courage means instantly losing. But obviously, true confidence is very different from acting like a totally cocky idiot. Being overly arrogant against beasts was basically an instant game over. Hong Shu gave a tiny nod, but did not seem that interested. Too bad Vermilion Bird only takes girls. He is a guy, so he is off limits. That was their main rule. Among the 4 elite academies, they were extremely, notoriously weird. The others accepted everyone, but Vermilion Bird exclusively admitted female students since their very first day. Absolutely no exceptions ever made for anyone. Nobody really knew why anymore. Only the founding principal knew the real truth, and she had been gone for ages. Every principal since then upheld that amazing tradition, making the campus look like an absolute visual paradise for all the guys. Girls, absolutely everywhere, from the highest leadership straight down to the newest students. Not a single dude in sight. So Hongshu only scouted female warriors and totally ignored the men. This also explained why Vermilion Bird always had the absolute smallest student population. They missed out on amazing guys, giving the other 3 academies a really massive advantage. Meanwhile, Yeling finally reached the massive entrance. Staring at the glowing passage ahead, pure excitement filled his eyes. Without hesitating one single second, he stepped right inside. Other terrified students probably feared this as some huge, scary test. But for Yeling, this was absolutely nothing. Just another perfect spot to level up and farm materials. Once inside, a massive, long corridor stretched out before him. Far ahead, a bright glowing light marked the exact exit point. Beyond that lay the real destination, the first-tier secret realm, where this wild assessment would start. Here is what stays with me. The earlier students should have been visible somewhere. But stepping inside, Yeling saw absolutely nobody else around. Wild, right? Stick with me here. Everyone drops into the secret realm through different routes. Yeling clears the tunnel and reaches this bright spot. The light wasn't blinding, but definitely hard to see through. Our guy just steps right out without overthinking a thing. This first-tier secret realm is absolutely massive. Exactly what you'd expect from a heavy-hitting federal assessment site. Mountains, forests, rivers, hills. The complete package, stretching out everywhere. Students start popping out of these foggy portals. They look exactly like the ones back at the plaza, except these gates are scattered all over the map. Each portal sits at least several kilometers apart from the next one, meaning everyone gets totally separated right off the bat. The second someone steps through, their gate just vanishes into thin air. Exactly the same thing happens to Yeling. But the exact second he lands, this freezing cold hits him hard. He looks around and realizes the realm dumped him right on top of a mountain. No wonder it's so freezing up there. Mountain peaks aren't exactly known for being cozy vacation spots. Standing around freezing isn't an option. The temperature drops fast, and nobody can last long in those brutal, icy conditions. Here's where it gets interesting. Surviving this realm means relying on spirit pets. So Yeling pulls Zuyu out right away. A flash of crimson red light erupts, and there stands Zuyu in that red feathered robe. Looking completely graceful, Yeling tells Zuyu they need to get off this mountain first. If the realm teleports people to a spot, it means humans can actually reach it somehow. There has to be a way down. Doesn't take long before Yelling finds a path leading straight down. Pretty rough terrain, but beggars can't be choosers. Yelling definitely isn't built tough, like Zuyu. His human body can't take the same beating, so he really has to watch his step. Zuyu helps out though, jumping down with him when the distance works. This whole climb gets Yelling's heart racing. Spirit tamers like him aren't much tougher physically than your average person. That only changes at level 5, when they can finally tap into some of their spirit pet's power through the seal. That still feels pretty far off for Yelling, but based on how things are going, he figures he will hit 5th rank soon enough. Right about halfway down the mountain, this incredibly sharp screech cuts through the air. Yelling looks up and spots this massive bird circling overhead. Wingspan about 2 meters across. He recognizes it immediately. A steel-wing bird, definitely juvenile by the looks of it. Level 4. First-tier magical beast with wings hard as steel. 2 meters might sound huge, but for these guys, total baby territory. Adults have wingspans of at least 5 meters. This little guy has a long way to go before reaching full size. Good thing too, because a fully grown steel-wing bird right now would be absolute game over. Adults are mostly 4th-tier beasts, and honestly, Yelling isn't even 2nd tier yet. Running into a 4th-tier steel-wing leaves him with basically 0 shot at survival. Meanwhile, the bird keeps its eyes totally locked on Yelling's position. Pretty obvious, it already decided he's lunch. Being higher up doesn't make things safer at all. This entire area belongs to monsters, Sky included. Some of these wild creatures even hide out in caves scattered around. The steel-wing bird lets out another screech and dives straight down without hesitation. Shoots through the air like an arrow, closing the distance incredibly fast. You and I both expect panic, right? But Yelling isn't worried. If this happened earlier, maybe he'd be nervous. But he and Zuyu aren't the same anymore. He tells Zuyu to teach the bird a serious lesson, with a completely cold look in his eyes. Zuyu, radiating that chilling aura, gives a slight nod. Honestly, Zuyu is looking way more human now than when he first showed up. Crimson Ghost barely even glances at the steel-wing bird coming in extremely hot, probably thinking some basic tier 1, level 4 monster. Trying to start something is basically just asking to get completely wrecked. Out of nowhere, Zuyu's black nails shoot out longer, giving off this nasty dark energy. And that stuff is straight poison to pretty much everything still breathing. Get nicked by those sharp claws, and that dark energy seeps right in. They might not feel it right away, but give it time, and it messes them up bad. Either they're out of the fight, or straight up finished, depending on how tough they are against toxins. The steel-wing bird, diving down, suddenly gets this terrifying feeling when it sees Crimson Ghost flash those nasty claws. It doesn't really get why, but something deep down screams to bail from the guy in red, or it's completely done for. The bird yanks its head back hard, and changes course crazy fast. Steel wings flap wildly to shoot back up into the sky. That split-second instinct absolutely saves its life, because Crimson Ghost is already coiled up, totally ready to launch and swipe at it. And even though Zuyu can't fly yet, he can definitely jump high enough to be a massive problem. Yelling gets totally caught off guard when the bird pulls up like that. He thought it had guts, but it just chickens out at the last second, completely ruining Zuyu's setup. Got him pretty incredibly annoyed. He mutters the bird got lucky. Trust me, you'll want to see what's waiting down this rough mountain trail. Let's dive right in. Up above, that steel-wing bird is still circling, watching Yelling walk away with pure hunger, even knowing that partner in red would totally wreck it. This bird wanted a piece of Yelling so badly. You know the saying, the real danger is never the obvious thief. It is the shadow, patiently watching and waiting. And this stalker circling overhead had Yelling totally tense. The thing is, it only held back because Zhu remained there. But if a strong enemy rolled up and Crimson Ghost got tied up fighting, that bird would definitely swoop right down and attack him. Yelling knew this, but could not do much, since the sky was not his territory yet, and Crimson Ghost simply could not fly. He made a mental note right then. His next spirit pet absolutely needed wings for quick travel and swatting those annoying airborne threats. For now though, yelling ignored the bird stalking him from above. He just focused on finding a decent place to rest. Even a simple cave would work. He needed somewhere safe at night. Since this first assessment lasts 3 days, and nobody stays awake that long. Plus, sleeping completely out in the open just cranks the danger. Other scattered students started doing the exact same thing, looking for safe spots to camp. Some of them even began heading toward each other too. The weaker ones figured they had better odds sticking together, since going totally solo inside this secret realm would be super rough. Most of those types were lower rank students, though. The top students had zero interest in teaming up at all. They refused to deal with people who would probably just slow them down. They figured they could handle the entire exam perfectly alone. Sienna was absolutely that confident type. She had zero plans to work with anyone, since her Earth Dragon was already Tier 1 Level 8. In this Tier 1 secret realm, barely anything could stand up to the Earth Azure Dragon, except maybe a few truly powerful monsters. As long as she stayed careful, 3 days would be an absolute breeze. Almost like a vacation, assuming she avoided huge monster packs or overlord beasts. Back at Tian High School, a massive screen stood in the stands, broadcasting all the students who had just entered the secret realm. The main camera kept jumping between students. The Spirit Master Academy reps were sizing absolutely everyone up quite carefully, spotting students who stayed completely cool and immediately searched for shelter after landing. The reps nodded in approval like, yeah, that is what is up. But then, they saw other students instantly trying to team up with people, and they could only shake their heads at that choice. Now, pay close attention here. The first test technically allowed teamwork, but every single student was fierce competition, whether they admitted it or not. Anyone leaning on others instead of handling their own business might luckily scrape past the first round, but they would get absolutely crushed in the second. The first test basically existed just to weed out the people with zero shot anyway. The real intense challenge came in round 2. There was one upside, though. Anyone making it safely through this first assessment was guaranteed a spot at some Spirit Master Academy. Which exact academy depended entirely on how they ranked in the second test. Lu Fan was grinning really wide right now, having spotted a few smart students who quickly found decent shelter. At the very least, he would not be going home with absolutely nothing this time around. He visited Tian City every single year to recruit, but some years he just struck out. For Lu Fang's academy to even consider a student, they needed to crack the top 10 during round 2. Let that sink in. That level was reserved for actual geniuses. An Azure Dragon Academy demanded the absolute best. Same deal for other top academies. Being slightly better than average simply did not cut it. That was nowhere near true genius territory. Someone like that would just seriously struggle at a top academy. Once enrolled in a Spirit Master Academy, all their cultivation resources came either directly from family or the school allocation system. To get a good share of resources, they had to prove their worth. Every academy kept strict rankings for each grade, and higher-ranked students earned way more of the pie. Those extra resources came straight from the lower-ranked student shares. So strength meant everything. An average fighter at a top academy would likely get fewer cultivation resources than a student at a middle-tier academy. Resources were just one single piece of the puzzle, though. Plenty of other factors mattered too. Bottom line, having just a little bit of strength was never enough to survive a top academy. Hu Ling stayed locked onto the screen, smiling the whole time, and looking more satisfied by the second. She had spoken to Ho Qing Shan earlier, discovering that Ho Senianer had hit at least the 7th level of the first rank. At her age, with that kind of power, getting into an elite academy was absolutely guaranteed. You and I know how this ends, Hu Ling claimed her. The other 3 reps just smiled awkwardly, because honestly, what could they even do? Let us dive right in. Hu Shan picked Xuan Wu Spirit Master Academy, leaving one less elite genius for everyone else to snatch up. Hong Shu definitely took this loss the absolute hardest. Since Spirit Master Academy only admitted female students, losing such an amazing prodigy seriously stung. If she were a guy, Hong Shu would not have cared. Suddenly, the giant screen shifted over to Ya Ling, leaving all the Academy representatives looking completely baffled. Our guy got teleported straight to a rugged mountaintop. This was super weird because rookies never drop into such insanely dangerous zones. Even Shang Ling Kong frowned deeply, caught totally off guard by this. But Ya Ling stayed totally cool, quickly finding a clever way to scale down the mountain. Shang Ling Kong nodded, visibly impressed by Ya Ling keeping his cool without panicking. The absolute best part? He was not tied to any elite family. Then, his luck totally tanked. A massive Tier 1 Level 4 Steelwing bird instantly spotted him, and every single viewer assumed he was completely finished. Seeing the ferocious beast target Ya Ling, the crowd shook their heads, fully aware he was basically the weakest student in his entire class. So fighting a monster like this seemed totally impossible. Everyone fully expected him to quickly smash his emergency watch button and just forfeit, especially when that massive bird suddenly started a terrifying nosedive. Now watch closely. His spirit pet, the Scarlet Ghost, merely flashed its sharp claws once, making that ferocious beast completely back off in fear. The spectating representatives absolutely lost their minds, wondering how this was even possible, and what kind of insane pet could achieve that. Hu Ling stared blankly at the screen, trying to understand it. She knew humanoid spirit pets were incredibly rare across the Federation, especially ones sized like humans. Unlike those giant, lumbering rock golems you see. The reality is, humanoid pets lack the raw physical advantages of massive monsters, meaning almost nobody ever bothers to form contracts with them. Hong Shu was extremely curious too, noticing its human appearance. But when she asked the others around her, even Hu Ling and Luang had absolutely zero clue what they saw. Everyone immediately turned toward Shang Ling Kong, assuming the city lord and academy principal would definitely know what it was. Turns out this was his first time seeing the kid's pet too. He had indeed heard old rumors about a student contracting a completely useless zombie spirit pet, but he simply never connected that forgotten legend to the determined kid on the screen. With everyone intensely watching him, Shang Ling Kong just casually shrugged it off, claiming total ignorance about the pet. But he noted that if the kid possessed true talent, he would definitely shine in the next assessment anyway. Wu Ling felt that answer was slightly lazy, yet logically sound. You and I know he is strong, but these clueless VIPs simply decided to wait until he proved his worth. Meanwhile, deep inside the hidden zone, Ya Ling finally made it down from the high peak to the mountainside and discovered a perfectly dry cave, entirely saving him the massive hassle of building his own shelter from scratch. Plus, resting halfway up the mountain was significantly safer than dropping into the dense forest. After rapidly cleaning up the cave, he realized that true survival meant hunting, not just safely hiding out for 3 whole days. He needed actual food. Hunting wild beasts or monsters was an option, but eating rough monster meat sounded like an absolutely terrible dining experience. Worse, some beasts were extremely toxic and could easily take him out if he was careless. The Scarlet Ghost chilled in the darkest shadows near the entrance, totally hating the harsh sunlight while heavily preferring the safety of the dark night. Peeking out from the cave entrance, Ya Ling noticed that annoying steelwing bird still aggressively circling above, refusing to leave. The absolute second he stepped out, the beast locked onto him with a terrifying glare. Ya Ling was getting seriously annoyed. This persistent bird was becoming a massive headache. He desperately needed to scheme a clever plan to crush it. Since he originally and foolishly hoped the monster would just get bored, give up, and fly away, he remained hiding inside the gloomy cave for hours. Yet that stubborn winged beast just kept circling overhead. Once a steelwing bird locked onto its prey, it never gave up easily. Ya Ling sat quietly on a massive rock inside the cave, desperately scheming a way to drag this monster down. That relentless bird only wanted him. He was its absolute primary target right now, meaning the perfect bait was insanely obvious. He must use himself. Acting as live bait was undoubtedly risky, but Yaling secretly held powerful spiritual techniques. As long as he played it smart, he would absolutely survive. He decided to test this crazy theory immediately. The brilliant plan was simple: stand alone outside while his hidden partner stayed inside. Then wait for the giant bird to aggressively strike. After ordering his trusty partner to watch closely, Yaling confidently stepped outside and just silently waited. But the massive bird kept circling. It refused the bait, just intensely glaring at him without moving. Trust me, this trick totally failed. That cautious bird was absolutely terrified by his powerful partner hiding inside. Stick with me here, you and I are about to see Yaling. Back away. That crimson ghost's aura had the bird completely spooked. Even though the beast desperately wanted a piece of Yaling, held back. It just couldn't tell if Zuyu was still hiding nearby. Rushing in blind would be a terrible mistake, so the bird decided to wait him out. Honestly, its patience was genuinely kind of impressive. Even with the tasty snack nearby, it stayed perfectly restrained. When Yaling stepped back inside the cave, pure hunger flashed in the bird's glowing eyes. It let out a sharp, dramatic screech while circling. After a moment, Yaling casually strolled back out. But this time, he had already tucked Zuyu safely into his pet seal. Staring at the looping bird, he just grinned. He was taking this beast down today, no matter what. Otherwise, he would never get any peace. Yaling headed casually down the mountain, and that steel-winged bird trailed him from above, keeping a supposedly safe distance. Seeing the bird act so cautiously, Yaling muttered an annoyed curse. Still, he felt zero need to rush. This was a perfect chance to explore the surrounding area anyway, so he just completely ignored the bird. About half an hour later, Yaling arrived at the bottom. A sprawling, dense forest stretched out, totally blanketed in light mist. The fog felt pretty thin under the bright sun, but once night finally dropped, this entire forest would be completely swallowed up. You wouldn't see 10 meters ahead. The local beasts were true night creatures, way more active right after sunset. They hunted entirely by scent, so thick fog never slowed them down, but daytime stayed super peaceful, and our guy barely bumped into a single threat while happily strolling through. Meanwhile, the steel-winged bird finally seemed totally convinced that Zuyu wasn't around. Getting much bolder, it dropped lower, perching on high branches just to aggressively watch Yaling confidently stroll through the dense forest. Eventually, the wild bird's patience just entirely vanished. Now pay close attention. Drooling from its sharp beak, it screeched and dove from the treetop at absolutely mind-blowing speed. Its massive wings snapped shut, then violently burst open, launching a chaotic spray of metallic feathers, gleaming with cold light at Yaling's back. So, this metal beast actually had big brains, cleverly testing the waters before striking. But Yaling easily saw it coming, spun around in a flash, and deployed his spiritual shield. A brilliant, glowing blue oval barrier instantly popped up right before him. Those sharp metal feathers started pinging off the barrier like absolute crazy. But his awesome shield easily held strong against this first-tier flying beast. The creature kept diving though, aiming its sharp beak straight at his shield. Honestly, that was where the true danger lived, since that beak was significantly harder than its wings. Yaling's basic shield would never survive that heavy impact, but our clever guy had already thought this whole thing through. Freeing up one hand, he dramatically summoned glowing blue spiritual chains that violently shot out, tangling around the monster's giant wings mid-flight. The giant bird panicked and violently thrashed around, trying to break entirely loose with absolutely everything it had. Yaling clearly knew those chains couldn't hold forever. You and I both know that letting this thing escape means hunting a completely paranoid beast 10 times harder later. So, he brilliantly called out his spirit pet. The mighty crimson ghost Zuyu appeared wearing stylish red robes, receiving strict orders to finish the epic job. Meanwhile, the struggling bird remained stuck in midair, pretty low down, so Zuyu simply leaped up to catch it. The beast completely lost its mind. frantically blasting razor-sharp feathers in literally every possible direction. Zuyu dodged right through the chaos like it was absolute nothing, moving unbelievably smooth. The mist feathers smashed into Yeling's glowing shield, making that exact same loud pinging sound. Once Zuyu firmly landed on the beast's back, she wasted literally zero time, ruthlessly driving her sharp claws straight through the wild bird's head. The creature unleashed a truly terrible screech, violently thrashing harder, putting so much immense pressure on the spiritual chains that they literally started cracking open. Yeling was sweating bullets, just trying to maintain control, but eventually, the screaming faded away. Its giant wings stopped flapping, and it was totally over. So Yeling finally released his tense grip, and those powerful spiritual energy chains instantly shattered into brilliant little blue specks, peacefully fading away into absolute nothingness. The heavy, steel-winged bird instantly dropped like a rock, and right before the huge impact, the crimson ghost smoothly backflipped off its massive spine. The beast crashed into the dirt hard enough to completely snap a tree in half, kicking up thick dust everywhere. Our crimson ghost gracefully landed beside Yeling, glowing red energy vividly dripping from her incredibly sharp, pitch-black fingernails. Yeling stood there coughing and frantically waving his hands around, trying to clear the dust. Once the chaotic dust finally settled down, he casually strolled over to inspect his prize. The creature sported 5 terrifying, deep gashes right across its head, still leaking vibrant red energy. Looking at his crimson ghost's wicked hands, Yeling nervously rubbed the back of his own head. Those sharp nails could probably wreck someone's head instantly if she struck like that, which honestly made him shiver quite a bit. He quickly shook off the weird thought, though, since the powerful crimson ghost was his very own spirit pet anyway. So what do you and I take from this? The beast dropped decent evolution loot, even if a young bird yields slightly fewer epic rewards. Let's dive in together. Yeling dug around forever trying to figure out what was worth taking. The materials were high level though, so even if he didn't need them now, they would sell for massive money later on. After finally collecting absolutely everything, he stood checking out the fallen beast, realizing he really needed to hit tier 2 soon because doing all this manual material gathering every single time was getting super old. The secret realm was strictly the absolute best spot for this, since any steel-winged bird flying outside would be fully grown. And our guy knew he basically stood zero chance against one of those right now. He wasn't about to waste good meat, so he carved out epic pieces for his lunch and dinner later. The neck meat was the absolute best part. The super rare stuff served in fancy Tian City restaurants, since you needed insane strength to actually take down one of these huge birds. That naturally meant it cost a huge ton of federal credits to actually eat it. With the premium meat packed up, Yeling headed back down the mountain path, his loyal, ghostly pet floating right behind him. He practically never put his ghostly pet back into the spirit pet seal unless absolutely necessary, since the secret realm could hide sneaky monsters literally anywhere. If something tried a nasty sneak attack and his spirit pet wasn't out to defend him, he would be totally screwed, especially since summoning one takes precious time. Meanwhile, outside the realm, all the academy representatives were sitting there in pure silence. Most of these experts figured Yeling was just some nobody. Now watch closely, because that lightning-fast wind basically slapped them in the face. Holing was watching the entire event with an intensely interested look on her face, and that signature beauty mark made her look dangerous as hell. She pointed out how intriguing it was that this random student could crush a tier 1 steelwing bird so effortlessly, then glanced around to gauge what everyone else thought. Bang, totally agreed, saying having such crazy strength at his age was super impressive for a kid from Tianu City. Lu Fang quickly cut him off before he could finish, adding that the humanoid spirit pet was super rare, and he was really excited to see what Yeling would do next. Just like that, taking out one single steel-winged bird meant Yeling officially caught the eyes of some seriously high-tier masters. Honestly though, the representatives were only mildly curious right now. Nobody was actually planning to recruit him for the top 10 spots. Those elite spots were reserved for true geniuses. This Yiling kid just seemed interesting, nothing more. Out of the 4 main academy representatives up front, Hong Shu was the one who genuinely did not care. She straight up told the others to take him, simply asking them to save the next promising girl for her team. The simple truth was, Hong Shu strictly followed a strategy of recruiting talented female students. So since Yiling was a guy, she had absolutely zero interest. Meanwhile, Shan Lingkong, the powerful city lord, sitting right in the main seat, had already ordered someone to pull Yiling's files after seeing him summon that pet named Shi Yu. Right on cue, one of his loyal assistants walked up holding a small computer with the file. Shen Lingkong took it, waved the guy away, and started scrolling through the data while calmly sipping his tea. You saw that too, right? Something on screen makes his eyes go huge, and he spits his tea everywhere, completely catching everyone's attention. The 4 elite academy representatives sitting nearby noticed the small computer in his hands and naturally got super curious. They stealthily moved a bit closer, peeking right over his shoulder. Huing literally gasped out loud in total shock when she saw it. The file listed Yiling's spirit pet as a zombie. Her sudden outburst made Shan Lingkong realize people were reading over his shoulder. So, he quickly slammed the computer shut and resumed drinking tea like absolutely nothing happened. Deep down, he was completely rattled. The whole thing just seemed totally impossible. Everyone knew what zombies looked like. Scary, rotting monsters. But Yiling's summon looked so perfectly normal that anyone could mistake her for human. Nobody would ever guess she was a zombie. Mainly because the image of what zombies were had been firmly set in stone for centuries. Shang Lingkong simply couldn't wrap his head around how a zombie could possibly be this kid's spirit pet. The 4 representatives couldn't extract any more details since Shang Lingkong had closed the file, which honestly frustrated them a bit. Huing even shot an annoyed glare at his back, silently wondering why he was being so weirdly secretive about basic student information. But the actual reason Sheng Lingkong kept it totally secret was simply because the whole thing sounded genuinely unbelievable to him. Still, he figured the second assessment stage would reveal the absolute truth soon enough. That's where we leave it. Before doing anything else, he wants proof. So he orders his guide to find Yiling's teacher and confirm these insane details himself. Alright, let's dive into this totally wild and super mysterious academy assessment together today. They saw his file mention an undead spirit pet, and they knew exactly how those gloomy creatures usually look. But what Yang had just shown them was completely different. After thinking, Huing playfully guessed, his undead pet evolved. That was the only fun theory explaining its shiny new look. Though the other 3 honestly still felt super unsure. Nobody had ever witnessed such a unique creature before, so they absolutely could not confirm anything. Huing caught Shang Lingkong sneakily sending someone away, quickly figuring it definitely had everything to do with our boy Yang. She smiled brightly, telling everyone to relax. The city lord was already investigating this exciting mystery himself, meaning they would get some awesome answers very soon. Besides, the second big assessment was approaching fast, which would totally reveal if this cheerful spirit pet was a real undead. Our guy was staying put. Taking the test meant he eagerly wanted into a spirit academy, giving them plenty of fantastic chances to recruit this genius later on. The remaining 3 completely agreed with her logic, though, by now, even the folk sitting further back were buzzing with wild curiosity about this entire captivating situation. Huing's sudden loud shout left most representatives totally clueless about the mysterious pet owner, but they excitedly gossiped about it anyway. Now watch closely. You and I are about to spot a sneaky shadow creeping toward that fallen steel-winged bird. From far away, it resembled a wolf. The pitch-black wolf approached, sniffing the fallen bird twice, then slowly lifted its head. Its mysterious, glowing green eyes locking right onto exactly where Yang had vanished. Without missing a single beat, the majestic black beast bolted into the woods. Time zoomed by much faster inside this realm. 3 whole days inside. only burned through half a day in reality. Back at his cozy cave halfway up the mountain, Yang relaxed with the tasty roasted snack before excitedly planning his next 3 days of epic adventure. He could just camp and pass the time peacefully. Relaxing for 3 days was absolute child's play for him, but entering this magical secret realm was super rare. Who knew when another golden chance would arrive? Definitely not soon. If he played this smartly, he could score huge rewards. Plus, with his amazing new strength, he could freely roam anywhere, safely. After pondering, Yang decisively chose to take action. He grabbed Crimson Ghost and began an exciting hunting spree, eagerly starting by clearing out the entire surrounding mountain area. The area had a mountain backdrop and forest below, prime real estate that magical creatures truly loved. Sure enough, after cheerfully hiking down the winding mountain path, our brave hero bumped into his very first monster squad. We both knew it an entire fierce group, not just one single straggler. These prickly porcupines were fairly basic tier creatures, only reaching around level 3 or 4 when fully grown. They resembled regular pigs, except for long glowing spines sticking out. Those quills were incredibly sharp and could actually launch right off. Even spirit masters might get poked if careless. Thankfully, those tricky flying spines were totally free of poison. This specific gathering was impressively huge, easily boasting over a dozen spiky critters. Sure, the experience points were nothing crazy, but Yang was never picky. Every tiny bit absolutely added up nicely. Always chasing top-tier beasts was totally unrealistic anyway. Elite creatures were incredibly rare, ruling firmly at the very top. Yang confidently waved his hand, and Crimson Ghost instantly transformed into a brilliant scarlet blur, fearlessly charging straight toward the porcupine pack with zero hesitation. Those porcupines could not even process Crimson Ghost's insane speed before deep, striking claw marks covered their bodies. Several were instantly defeated before they could even react, falling down completely overwhelmed and quickly dropping out of the fierce battle. The remaining creatures finally panicked, totally freaking out and scattering everywhere. The absolute largest one confidently snorted white mist, digging its mighty back legs down to charge. Clearly, this big guy led the pack. Instead of fleeing, it bravely chose to fight, but the epic power gap was simply way too massive. That proud porcupine leader intensely arched its back, making those sharp quills bristle and gleam with the chilling light. Without hesitation, it blasted the spikes forward. Those quills shot like lightning, becoming a dazzling blur of cold light, racing straight toward Crimson Ghost. Yang was not even slightly worried about this desperate counterattack, because honestly, there was absolutely zero reason. A tier 1, level 5 creature had absolutely zero chance of ever scratching Crimson Ghost. So what do we make of this? Crimson Ghost just elegantly raises those epic, ancient, flowing sleeves. Let's jump into this epic showdown. The sharp spikes smashed her sleeves with a loud clang, dropping uselessly. Those quills weren't infinite, you know. The porcupine boss was running seriously low on ammo, and they definitely don't grow back instantly. The real problem? This creature absolutely didn't have the time to wait for reloads. Realizing its attacks were totally useless against Crimson Ghost, the porcupine panicked. It started backing up, frantically launching whatever ammo it had left, hoping to buy just enough time to escape. Great plan on paper, but reality had other plans. Crimson Ghost just kept strolling forward, effortlessly waving those long sleeves like the attacks were nothing. Eventually, the beast ran completely dry, its back looking totally bare and ridiculous without a single spike. Crimson Ghost locked her glowing white eyes on the target, and while nobody was looking, a deeply fascinating expression crossed her face. If anybody had actually seen Crimson Ghost like this, they would have been totally stunned. She was acting way more human lately, displaying real expressions, proving she was getting incredibly smart as she leveled up. The poor beast was sweating intensely and wanted to flee, but turning around meant exposing its weakness. It stood there completely frozen, trying to calculate its next move as Crimson Ghost approached. All 4 of its legs twitched nervously, ready to sprint away instantly. Now watch closely here. Just as the desperate beast tried to move, Crimson Ghost suddenly turned into a scarlet blur and dashed right past it. A sharp sound of a blade cutting echoed through the air, and the giant porcupine just froze completely. Crimson Ghost reappeared right behind it, while the massive creature twitched twice and dropped down. A flawless claw mark appeared on its neck, dark energy pouring out alongside a faint, mysterious mist. That mist was phantom energy from Crimson Ghost, the exact stuff that slowly infects targets and turns them into mindless zombies who only care about endless destruction and chaos. But that wasn't happening today. The porcupine was swiftly dismantled before transforming, mainly to search for any highly valuable evolution materials hidden inside. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the huge secret realm, Liu Wu, from the very same class, was scheming. This guy held a serious grudge, and right now his spirit pet was out. His venomous python was tier 1, rank 5, almost ready to break through to rank 6. The massive beast stretched nearly 8 meters long, and it was so incredibly thick, nobody could hug it. Completely blue, and despite being a python, it packed enough venom to permanently take someone out within just 1 hour without immediate medical help. Even worse, the defeat was absolutely brutal, draining all vitality. Now, compared to the elite students' pets, Liu Wu's python was slightly weaker at tier 1, rank 5, but absolutely nobody messed with it. Even Huo Shenner's mighty Earth Azure Dragon would probably take some serious damage if it ever got hit by that nasty toxic poison. When Liu Wu got teleported into the starting area, he definitely didn't just sit safely like everyone else. Instead, he started aggressively roaming around, obviously hunting somebody specific. You and I both know the smart play was camping safely for 3 days. Since most monsters actively avoid scary venomous pythons, fighting one was a total lose-lose scenario, where even winning meant getting poisoned and fading away. Regardless, only natural counters would ever risk it. But Liu Wu wasn't interested in playing it safe today, because he had some very personal business to handle. The official assessment rules never ban students from fighting each other, just that everyone needed to survive. That crazy loophole was exactly what Liu Wu wanted, because he was fiercely angry. He genuinely despised the guy named Yang. Liu Wu couldn't stand him, especially after getting completely ignored by him multiple times, making his intense frustration grow so much stronger. Liu Wu saw Yeling as total garbage, maybe hitting first or second level at best. So, this arrogant guy figured Yang should be the one getting ignored, not the reverse. Plus, Liu Wu was still furious about Yeling stealing his spotlight in class earlier. The funny thing was, Liu Wu was basically the strongest guy in their entire class, and even rival students who could somehow match his strength wouldn't dare mess with his terrifying python. Liu Wu strongly felt that if anybody was going to show off, it should be him. So, after getting disrespected constantly, he decided Yeling wouldn't slide. The easiest solution was utterly destroying him right inside the secret realm, where there basically weren't any strict rules, and absolutely nobody would say anything about it, even if witnesses saw everything. The powerful city lord couldn't touch him since technically he wouldn't break any laws. That's why Liu Wu started actively hunting for Yang the very second he entered the secret realm, completely ignoring what his dad advised about just focusing on passing the first assessment. His wild emotions were completely running the show now, while the venomous python loomed. Liu Wu lazily rode on its back without even bothering to walk. He wasn't completely sure he'd find Yeling in this massive realm. But honestly, what do you and I expect? He won't waste this chance. We'll just have to watch closely. Let's dive into this crazy test together. Even with slim odds, he'd keep searching. If nothing showed up, he'd await stage 2. His expression stayed icy, clenching his fists while remembering Yeling. Beasts appeared along the trail, but feeling the heavy aura off the poison scale. Python. They kept their distance, even those tough ones above level 5. But what Liu Wu completely missed were those sharp eyes tracking him from the sky. Bong grinned brightly, watching Liu Wu ride that venomous python across the monitor, noting how that poison scale python gave him a massive edge. Since demons simply wouldn't dare attack it, toxic beasts and spirit pets obviously packed way more of a punch than standard ones. Plus, if someone snagged a rare or mutated venomous spirit pet, that advantage multiplied fast, especially since there might not be any cure for its venom at all. Curable strikes weren't much of a worry, but the untreatable ones, an entirely different nightmare. Lu Fang admitted, nobody could really argue with that huge edge, since the Spirit Master world was never exactly fair. Elite families held immense power, handing their kids top-tier spirit pets from birth, basically winning before the race even began. Average kids could still shine, but they clearly started 10 steps behind those wealthy family members. Everything relied entirely on whether their first spirit pet was decent or total trash. And Luong knew this perfectly, since he came from an ordinary background. Watch this part closely. Seeing Lu Wu act so unbelievably arrogant definitely rubbed him the entirely wrong way. Hu Ling got pretty uncomfortable hearing Lu Fang speak. She called him out for complaining right to her face, since she came from a prominent family too, but everything she achieved came from her own grinding. She had been incredibly brilliant since her childhood, but her insane power came purely from hard work, not family handouts. That was exactly why she still taught at Wu Spirit Master Academy, despite being a powerhouse. Sure, her family helped early on, but she earned this spot herself. This time around, she was simply following family orders to gently recruit Honer. Luong instantly realized he had messed up and laughed awkwardly, scrambling to backtrack by saying he was just venting and definitely not targeting her. Specifically, he obviously knew exactly how Hu Ling had climbed the ranks, but his harsh comment had basically thrown everyone into the same box, which totally dragged her in too. Hu Ling just snorted, crossed her arms, and completely ignored Luong, leaving him standing there feeling incredibly foolish about his entire awkward rant. Anyway, they shifted focus back to the secret realm. A solid chunk of students managed to find safe spots to hide out for the next 3 days. But some truly unlucky guys got ambushed by monsters immediately after walking in. A few lucky kids barely survived the wild attacks and escaped, while others just threw their hands up, yelled screw it, and quit the entire test. Better to walk away than get wiped out for some exam. Then there were the truly tragic ones who got eliminated before even hitting their emergency teleport button. You feel me on this, right? The whole evaluation was absolutely brutal. No fancy rules, just pure survival. Dozens of eager students were already disqualified, and honestly, nobody knew how many would actually pass. As the sun dropped and the dark night crept in, things got seriously more dangerous. Shadow beasts came out hunting, and nighttime was essentially their ultimate playground, since they could see clearly and track their targets way easier. Even Liu Wu, absolutely desperate to find Yeling, wasn't foolish enough to go wandering around in the pitch black. Getting completely overrun by a shadow pack would spell disaster, even with his venomous python, so he easily secured a solid spot to camp until morning. That massive python had this brilliant trick where it coiled its body into a circle, creating a natural fortress, while Liu Wu just rested inside as it guarded him. He wasn't stressing about getting ambushed, since his loyal python would easily wake him if danger appeared. But what he entirely missed was that high up in a tree, something with piercing eyes was already watching him rest. That brutal first night was going to be absolute torture for many students. Some would get totally wiped out mid-slumber. Some might barely escape if luck favored them, while others would just disappear from the realm forever. Yeling definitely had it much better than Liu Wu, though. After spending his whole afternoon battling wild beasts, he sprinted straight toward a mountain cave as the sky darkened, arriving exactly as the sun fully vanished. He could hear savage wolves howling from below, and that meant serious trouble, since anything prowling around after dark was definitely an aggressive beast. The real issue? All that monster energy residue from earlier left a heavy trail, and demon wolves possessed insanely sharp tracking senses. Both he and Ju likely reeked of battle aura, meaning those vicious wolves were absolutely tracking them down. It could become a rough fight, but it might also be a massive opportunity. More demon wolves meant racking up serious experience points, speeding up growth for Scarlet Ghost, which needed to evolve regardless. That is where we leave it. With the narrow cave entrance, at least those wolves simply couldn't swarm them all at once. Stick with me here. With Shuyu guarding that entrance, they are practically invincible against these basic wolves. Time dragged heavily. Hearing those wild howls, Yeling stayed completely alert, definitely not planning to catch any sleep. Inside this realm, sleeping during daylight makes total sense. Nighttime means keeping your guard up against massive surprise attacks. Visibility is awful after dark, so even Yeling is not reckless enough to go chasing monsters right now. The Scarlet Phantom works solo, meaning it totally cannot defend its spot while simultaneously hunting down wild monsters. That just makes zero sense. So, this creature smartly limits its hunting strictly to daylight. Boom! A sudden wolf howl completely shatters the silence, and it sounds dangerously close this time. Yeling totally saw this coming. That wolf has an insane sense of smell. To easily track him, he tensed up, firmly gripping those steel feathers he snagged from that bird earlier. Sure, the bird tastes absolutely terrible, but those feathers are epic weapons that easily punch through anything, including thick demon wolf armor. Outside his cave, massive clouds roll in, completely swallowing the glowing moonlight. The secret realm instantly plunges into pure darkness, ruining whatever visibility was left. And this is not just hitting Yeling's exact spot. The whole realm suddenly goes pitch black at once. Watch this closely. Nervous students are totally shaking in their hiding spots right now. Nighttime is when Warcrafts roam, and one tiny mistake means instant elimination for these kids. The truly elite students remain completely unbothered though. They trust their epic skills entirely, totally ignoring the threat of random monster attacks. Tianhui City is completely run by three major families: Huo, Li, and Jiang. All three have serious contenders taking this assessment. Li Shangtian is the Li family's talented second son and the top-ranked academy student. This guy already hit Tier 1, Level 8. Plus, his rock spirit pet easily matches Ho Chenner's massive earth dragon completely. He actually reached level 8 way before Honor did too. Then we have Jiang Shang Nunan, the Jiang patriarch's daughter, utterly gorgeous, but she dresses and basically acts like one of the tough guys. Her strength comfortably sits at Tier 1, Level 7. But her amazing spirit pet is incredibly special, a super rare storm eagle. You and I know flying pets are broken. Having one gives her a massive edge, since enemies have absolutely zero defense against epic aerial strikes. Even these prodigies play it completely smart after dark. They grab solid hideouts, just chilling and waiting for sunrise. Jiang Shangnan chooses a wildly unusual camping spot, resting high up a colossal tree towering dozens of meters tall. Clueless ground monsters never look up. Plus, with her storm eagle guarding, flying threats do not worry her whatsoever. Leaning casually against the bark, she gazes far off, seriously wondering how Shenner is managing. Jiang Shangnan and Hosener are extremely tight, absolute besties. Thing is, Jiang Shangnan feels something deeper than friendship, wanting to stay with Hosener permanently. Meanwhile, Hosener remains entirely clueless, cheerfully seeing her as just an ultimate best friend and nothing more. Hojin skips, finding shelter. Her massive earth dragon simply resembles a resting mountain, letting her comfortably hide right beneath its huge head. No wandering demon is reckless enough to challenge that giant. Barely any time has passed outside, since this secret realm completely bends normal time flow rules. Those VIP representatives watch eagerly, wondering who fails tonight. Dozens of hopefuls already washed out completely earlier. The lucky ones warp back safely with basic scratches, heading straight for the medical bay. Unfortunate candidates face complete defeat. Surprisingly, none of the representatives seemed genuinely bothered. They survived this exact brutal trial before. It is honestly better experiencing harsh reality now than facing significantly worse challenges. Down the long road, minutes later, even more battered students start rapidly teleporting out. One kid emerges looking totally devastated, armor completely shredded, practically unable to stand anymore. Sparks fiercely pour from his shredded gear, while completely twisted metal proves how devastating the strike was. He yells frantically the exact second he warps back, instantly collapsing onto the solid floor, face completely twisted, sweating profusely, looking utterly terrified. Shen Ling Kong clearly hears this loud screaming. Barely reacting, he simply waves his hand, telling them to haul the kid away. Guards haul him away. Let that sink in. Shen Ling Kong has seen way worse chaos. Stick with me here. A missing hand didn't even faze him. But honestly, this poor kid's bright future was entirely over. You really can't achieve your massive dreams missing a limb. The military is strictly out, since they only accept recruits who are completely, fully intact. The surrounding college reps barely even reacted to the scene, mainly because this exact wild tragedy happens every single year during evaluations. Becoming a spirit master is just unforgiving like that. Honestly, if anyone wasn't prepared for the danger, they really should have backed out early. Yet none of these brave students wanted to quit, because being a spirit master meant truly being somebody. Going back to a regular, boring life after tasting that kind of absolute power just wasn't an option for anyone. Later that very night, inside a mysterious cave hidden deep in the mountains, Yi Ling sensed something creeping closer. Watch closely now. A sudden howl pierced the darkness, way too close for comfort, proving their tiny cave was now completely surrounded by those same massive demon wolves. Shu instantly tensed up, his sharp claws popping out like tiny blades. Yi Ling narrowed his eyes as shady figures blocked the entire cave entrance, their glowing green eyes piercing the heavy shadows, staring right into their tiny hideout. They were nasty shadow wolves, a fierce species famous for roaming in huge packs. Most were standard size, about 2 meters long, and just over a single meter tall. Then an absolute beast shoved through the center. This was clearly the pack leader, pushing 3 meters long and towering over every other wolf. You and I know that's bad. Yi Ling guessed at least 20 beasts lurking outside, making this a seriously dangerous, overwhelming pack of giant monsters. The giant leader stood right at the front, and not a single regular wolf dared to move without its clear permission. After a tense second, it unleashed a massive roar, and the entire pack started howling right back in loud response. Then they finally charged. Luckily, the cave entrance was tight enough that only one monster could squeeze through at a time, making defense way easier. Du stood strong like a brick wall, and every beast rushing inside instantly got sliced up and launched backward. Deep claw marks covered them, with strange dark energy leaking out of their heavy wounds. Yi Ling wasn't stressing at all about this. He was actually super hyped, since the terrain offered a massive advantage, and shadow wolves sometimes dropped dark hearts and rare essence fluid when they fell, which meant he might finally collect enough materials to evolve his Crimson Phantom to the next stage. The immense power gap was obvious anyway, since Crimson Phantom was vastly stronger than the pack leader, let alone these basic wolves. The Shadow Wolf boss was getting totally furious watching its entire pack fail miserably, so it unleashed another deafening roar and charged straight toward the cave entrance at full speed, literally kicking its own pack members aside to get there first. It really didn't care about its own pack members. Wild, right?